The blond guy was holding his sword with trembling hands. He was finally able to do it. He did it all right. The guy finally won. Then he ran off with rapid steps. Soon he reached the guild located in the village of Foil. The guy opened the door and loudly informed everyone that he had great news for them. The battered and wounded guy notified everyone that he had recently fought with slimes. He was able, albeit with difficulty, to defeat 2 slimes. The guy was glad that he had destroyed the monsters. After his words, there was a momentary silence in the guild hall. All eyes were on the blond guy. Then the crowd of guild visitors laughed loudly. Their laughter was caused by the fact that the guy was injured by slimes from the F-rank dungeon. Only the newcomers from the village fought in this dungeon. But the blond guy was annoyed by their laughter. He thought they underestimated the slimes. But slimes bit painfully when they were aggressive. Hearing his words, the crowd laughed even harder, because slimes were weak. People thought that the name Hopeless really suited the guy. The blond guy didn't react to their words. He was annoyed. The guy's name was Roa Foil. He was 19 years old, and he'd only reached the 10th level. The guy, having calmed down, believed that he would sell the 2 magic stones from the slimes for a huge sum. The employee behind the counter tried to play along with the guy, but the guy was able to get only 3 coins for the magic stones of the slimes, which is why he was somewhat depressed. Roa didn't even know about it. Roa then turned to the employee in despair. He wanted him to give him more money. After all, the guy won't be able to eat then. And even yesterday, he only ate grass and insects. The employee was sorry, but that was the market price of the stones. Roa, staring blankly at the floor, realized that he would have to eat only grass and other non-nutritious things again. An employee, looking through the information about the POA, noticed a problem with its status. Roa was level 25, but at the moment, the guy was level 10. The man sadly noticed that he had spent his levels again. Roa did this in order to effectively combat slimes. Therefore, he had to make a new sword to replace the old one. The blond guy had the skill of creating objects. Crafting items that matched his level was an extremely rare skill. Thanks to him, the guy was able to get a copper sword for his 15 levels. But the employee did not consider this skill useful. It was convenient only from the outside. Roa understood this like no one else. He can't make an unlimited number of first-level items. He will have to constantly spend his levels on creating new items. This meant that the guy would not be able to become a merchant. The more items he creates, the lower his level becomes. In this regard, his strength also decreases. Therefore, he will not even be accepted into the group of adventurers. Roa was desperate. He cannot earn money or experience points. Every time he gets a level, he immediately uses it. The guy was ashamed of this in front of his parents. But at least the employee appreciated his self-control. Suddenly, a strong wind current appeared near the Roa. The blond guy turned around in surprise. The strong current of wind, although it did not attack him, but brought inconvenience to everyone. The employee was stunned by the wind that suddenly appeared out of nowhere. Roa understood that the wind was caused by magic. That meant one thing. He appeared. A black-haired guy appeared in the guild room. He greeted Roa with an arrogant grin. It was because of this guy that the wind appeared in the room. Roa was looking at Carter with an annoyed look. That was the guy's name. The other adventurers in the guild were unhappy with Carter's actions. After all, it was dangerous. So people scolded the guy for the wind. They told him not to use magic inside the building. But the guy did not listen to their dissatisfied cries. Then the guy reminded everyone that the only one who carried goods to this village was his father. Therefore, Carter did not think that his father would sell potions to those he did not like. The adventurers could only keep angrily silent at his words. The black-haired guy arrogantly informed everyone that he just decided to show magic to poor Roa. After all, he couldn't use magic. Carter arrogantly used his wind magic to show it to Roa, because Roa with his skill couldn't have magic like Carter's. The black-haired guy pointed out to Roa that he had spent his levels on a fairly simple copper sword. The black-haired guy continued to put pressure on the guy with his words, pointing out the uselessness of his skill. Roa just silently looked at him with an irritated look. Then the guy calmly walked away from Carter. After all, for him, his skill was not as useless and unpleasant as others think. This skill was similar to the moment when someone, as a child, bought something for a little money, and it seemed special to him. Roa confidently told Carter that he would never feel this feeling when paying for something precious. The guy was already standing at the guild's exit while saying this. Carter was unhappy with Roa's calm reaction. He thought he was pretending to be strong in front of him. But Roa didn't care about him anymore. However, the guy was hailed by a guild employee. The man informed Roa that he had forgotten his 3 coins for the magic stones. The blonde-haired guy immediately returned back to the guild hall for the money. He happily took the bag of coins. With this money, he could buy something for himself. Only Carter was unhappy with the guy. The black-haired guy didn't like Roa. After a while, Roa was already in the dungeon. No matter what they say about him, he's the only one who can do something with a skill like his. The guy was calmly looking at his copper sword. Any adventurer became stronger by accumulating levels. However, skill points were also important. Skill points were earned as you level up. They could also be used to gain new skills or magic. However, Roa had a rather specific item creation skill. Therefore, he cannot get skill points even if he raises the level. All because his level was easily reduced due to the peculiarity of his skill. Therefore, no matter how much he raises his level, Roa will not be able to learn new skills in magic. That's why he works so hard to hone his swordsmanship. Roa destroyed a huge number of slimes. After destroying the slimes in the dungeon, his level finally began to return. Also, Roa's health score has increased well from 80 to 200 points. During this day, the guy was able to destroy all the slimes in this dungeon, but a new floor with other monsters was waiting for him ahead. From that moment on, Roa understood that it would not be easy anymore. Therefore, there was a possibility that he might get injured. If the guy is not skilled enough against fighting monsters, then he can be eliminated. However, if he can defeat the monster, then Roa will be able to get some skills that will stay with him. And it was all because of an unpleasant skill. The guy continued on his way, but immediately stopped. After all, there was a barrier in front of him, blocking his way. The barrier had numerous patterns. The guy saw him and realized that it meant one thing. Namely, that the dungeon boss will appear in front of him soon. Once he enters the barrier, he won't be able to go back until he wins the boss. Roa was aware that he had no chance of winning, especially with his life situation, which is not improving at all. However, the guy decided to enter through the barrier anyway. He didn't care that he could be eliminated. The guy was determined. After entering, a dark silhouette immediately appeared behind him. The silhouette attacked him. Roa was able to react to the sudden attack and dodge the blow. Now he definitely won't be able to leave this place just like that. The boss of the dungeon, Skeleton Swordsman, appeared in front of Roa. The armored monster was holding his battered sword. The recommended level for his victory was the 50th level. The monster itself was of rank F. The guy, after seeing the characteristics, realized that the recommended level was not so high. Roa attacked the enemy with his copper sword, defending himself from the monster. Defeating the dungeon boss shouldn't be impossible for him. The dungeon boss repelled the guy's attack, causing Roa to bounce some distance away. Roa was able to dodge the attack, but it was hard for the guy. The swordsman's skeleton was really different from the other monsters in this area. Then the guy defended himself from a new attack by the dungeon boss. He knew that even for him, this fight would be a win. He will be able to withstand its pressure and defeat the monster. After all, this victory will change his life. Roa resolutely pointed his copper sword at the opponent. The monster also prepared to attack the guy with his sword. The next moment, their swords collided with each other again. Roa did not retreat from the enemy. He was serious. After all, the guy spent as much as 15 levels in order to get a sword with such a blade. Therefore, he couldn't lose this battle. After decisive words, Roa attacked the bone monster with force, preventing it from defending itself. The force of his attack was so strong that the monster broke into 2 pieces. Roa was able to defeat and eliminate the dungeon boss. The blonde guy, breathing heavily, stared at the defeated monster in stunned disbelief. He won. After that, the guy clenched his trembling palms into a fist. His hysterical laughter was heard for a moment from joy. Roa finally succeeded. He was able to defeat the dungeon boss. He shouted joyfully in honor of defeating the monster. Suddenly, the guy was surrounded by a magic circle. Roa stared blankly at the magic circle that appeared out of nowhere. Then the guy received a notification from the system that the skeleton swordsman had been defeated. His skill turned into creating magic. The magic circle surrounding Roa began to disintegrate, but he was not up to it. After all, the surprise guy got a new skill called creating magic. The next day at the guild, the visitors were calmly in the room. Suddenly, the blonde guy was walking with confident steps towards the reception, thereby causing others to look at him in surprise. Roa then approached his familiar guild employee. The man looked at him questioningly. Roa tossed him a bag filled to the brim with magic stones. The blonde guy wanted to cash them out. The employee was surprised by the huge number of magic stones. He wanted to find out where they came from. After all, Roa brought a lot more stones than he usually brought. The guy knew that. He would finally be able to eat well this evening. After a while, he was already at the famous tavern in the village of Foil. There was an ordinary lunch on the table in front of the guy, consisting of soup, a cup of tea, and dried meat. Roa happily and greedily devoured the food. He felt the pleasant taste of food with tears in his eyes. After all, it wasn't the hard bread or thin soup he usually ate. The guy also felt the pleasant taste of dried meat, which made him happy. The other customers looked at the guy with uncomprehending eyes. Some felt sorry for him because he was happy and crying because of the discounted lunch. After the guy enjoyed a delicious lunch, he began to think about the skill he had recently acquired. He managed to try out the skill in the dungeon. The guy appreciated the effectiveness of the skill. It was really very rare. The guy remembered the recent battle with pleasant nostalgia. Suddenly, someone grabbed his dried meat. The unknown person saw that Roa finally got into the tavern. It was Carter. He was eating dried Roa meat with a vile grin. The black-haired guy noticed that Roa had a lot of free time. Roa was angry that Carter had eaten his dried meat. However, he forced himself to calm down. The guy just started ignoring Carter. After all, he thought he could do anything if Roa was not a customer of his store. But the black-haired guy was not far behind Roa. Carter recently heard from the guild workers that Roa had sold a large number of magic stones. Roa agreed with this. To do this, he had to defeat a bunch of monsters in the dungeon. Suddenly, the black-haired guy shouted to his father that Roa was a thief who stole stones from their store. Roa looked at Carter in shock. He didn't understand what was going on and why he was called a thief. They were immediately joined by Carter's father, who asked Roa with a gloomy look about how he dared to do this. A man with a blindfold over one eye wanted to punish the guy with his sword. After all, theft is a serious crime for him. Carter's father pulled out his saber. Roa tried to justify himself. But Carter's father didn't believe him and thought he was faking it. The man was angry because all the magic monster stones were missing from his store. The black-haired man believed that Roa had stolen them and sold them to the guild. Roa did not agree with this, but Carter began to put pressure on him. Carter pointed out that a weak guy like Roa doesn't have the ability to get that many stones. Everyone already knew that Roa had money problems. Therefore, Carter pointed out a possible reason why he stole the stones. After hearing Carter's words, the guy sat back down on the chair. Roa did not want to participate in this conflict because he did not do it. The black-haired guy prepared to use magic. Immediately, Carter used his wind squall magic on him, surrounding the guy with a stream of air. The blonde guy's entire meal was overturned. Carter warned the guy not to prolong the conversation about the stolen magic stones. Roa frowned at Carter's actions. With the help of his skill, he saw that he was using magic of the 5th level of consumption. Carter grabbed the guy by the collar with a malicious grin. He expected Roa to confess to stealing the magic stones. But Roa was not involved in this, so he did not agree that the theft was involved. Carter knew that perfectly well. He menacingly told Roa to be a good guy and confess to stealing magic stones. The black-haired guy promised him compensation for the confession. The guy continued talking. He also wanted Roa to say that he didn't have enough money. No one would really believe Roa anyway, because he was justifying himself without evidence. So Carter told him something else important. It turns out that it was the black-haired guy who stole precious magic stones from his father's store. All this he said with an arrogant grin. Carter rejoiced at Roa's troubles. Roa frowned at Carter's confession and didn't say anything back to him. Carter thought he agreed. The guy offered his father to take the guy to the guards, but Roa suddenly pulled his hand out of his grip. Blonde Roa smiled and recalled Carter's words that if he confessed that he was a thief, he would receive a reward. Carter noticed the guy's smile with alarm. He also reminded him that he had not yet confessed to stealing, but only Roa didn't steal them. Those magic stones that he cached in the guild were his. Suddenly, a magic circle appeared under the feet of the blonde guy, and lightning appeared in the room with it. Carter and his father were shocked by the scene they saw. The black-haired guy realized that Roa was using magic. Roa's magic circle continued to increase. More and more lightning appeared in the room. Carter stared at Roa with a magic circle in disbelief. After all, recently he couldn't even use magic. The guy didn't understand where the magic came from. A dark magical flame flared up in Roa's palm, forming the silhouette of an object. Roa looked at his opponents with a firm and frowning gaze. The guy used D-rank magic. He used the magic spell Fire Arrow. A fiery dark arrow appeared on his palm with the help of magic. All the tavern's visitors were stunned by Roa's magic. They stared at the guy with wide eyes. His magic was amazing to them. Along with them, Carter and his father were also shocked that Roa could use magic. Only Carter was scared at the same time, so the guy was shaking all over. Immediately, an employee from the guild came to the tavern. A man with glasses was breathing heavily from running. He said in disbelief that Roa could use magic. Roa looked at everyone with a gloomy look. His magical fire arrow was ready to attack. The blonde guy used his magic creation skill. In order to practice using the skill he had recently acquired, Roa stayed in the dungeon after defeating the dungeon boss. There he looked at his status. A lot of things regarding a creating magic skill appeared in his status window. While watching, Roa noticed something. A lot of magic skills were loaded into his system. Among them were the Great Fireball, Thunder Throw, Water Cannon. All these magical skills stood at 50 levels. In order to use them, he needed about 200 mana units. Roa read all the information about them. Then the guy chuckled. All these magic skills were worth the levels. The guy realized that it was similar to the ability of the item creation skill. He will benefit from trading levels. In other words, Roa will finally be able to learn magic. The guy was happy that he had such an amazing skill. He can now use magic during battle. The only thing he could get from his previous skill before were the items. It was also difficult for him to increase his levels. But now he can easily destroy monsters with magic. From now on, it will be easy for him to gain experience points, and Roa will be able to increase his level without hindrance. After a while, the guy sat down on a rock. He needed to calm down. Roa faced a difficult choice. He had to carefully choose the type of magic he needed. Looking at the characteristics of each type of magic, Roa realized that all were good. The guy wanted to choose everything. But at the moment, he could only allow one magic skill. So he was thinking about the magic of the Great Fireball. But since about 200 mana units are spent when using this type of magic, the guy refused this option. After all, with his mana reserve, he could only use this skill once. However, there are many other types of magic that use a small number of mana units. Inspired, Roa wanted to purchase them all, but he had to be patient. Then, among all the types of magic, the guy finally chose one. Namely, he chose the magic of the fiery spear. After clicking on the selection, a magic ball appeared in front of him, which glowed brightly and hovered over his hands. Soon, Roa acquired his first magic skill, Fire Spear. The cost of using it was 40 mana units. The skill also had a base damage of about 1,000 health units. For this skill, 25 levels disappeared from him. After getting this skill, the blonde guy looked at his hands and wanted to try out the new skill right away. But he returned to the system window again. Rhea wanted to spend his remaining levels. Moreover, the magic that is used daily was worth only 1 level. After purchasing various inexpensive types of magic, the guy wanted to start checking his acquired magic. He wanted to try it out on small monsters. Roa thought it was time for the petty enemies to appear. Immediately, a monster conveniently appeared. Kobold Fighter appeared next to him. The recommended level for destroying it was level 32. The monster itself was of rank E. The Kobold Fighter looked like a cute puppy in armor. The guy was fascinated by the cuteness of his enemy. At the moment, the Roa had only the first level. Therefore, the guy was immediately scared when the Kobold Fighter turned from his pretty form into a terrifying-looking beast-like monster. The monster attacked Roa. The monster attacked the blonde guy, but Roa was able to bounce away from the attack. The guy wanted to stop the monster. Although Roa said he wanted to fight, he was not prepared for such a sudden attack. Therefore, he could only urgently apply his newly acquired skill, Fire Spear. When applying a magic spell, a magic circle appeared. After the guy activated his skill, instantly a huge stream of fire magic attacked the monster. The monster was dangerously injured by this attack. The fire spear disappeared into thin air. The beast-like monster was defeated and eliminated by this blow. Roa stared at the defeated enemy with wide-open eyes in shock. In the dungeon, only the impact from the landing of the defeated monster was heard. The blonde guy did not move from his seat for a while. He was in deep shock. But then the guy shouted joyfully. He was delighted that he had defeated the enemy with magic. It was cool for him. After all, Roa eliminated the recommended level 32 monster with one shot. He realized that it was a powerful spell. As long as the spell can strike, Roa will be able to defeat the enemy, even if the levels are very different. Then Roa received a notification from the system that he had gained experience from the strong monster he had defeated. Thanks to this, the guy raised his level from the 1st to the 11th. Roa realized that the difference between their levels also contributed to gaining experience points. He gained 10 levels in a second, which usually took a guy a whole week. It was a wonderful feeling. The guy finally felt the unforgettable feeling of becoming stronger. This joyful feeling brought tears to his eyes. The guy then stated that he was going to use the skill Creating Magic to succeed in magic. Roa returned from his memories. The blonde guy was in the tavern. He was ready to use the Fire Spear skill. The black-haired guy stood guardedly. Carter was scared that Roa was using magic. He promised the guy in a trembling voice that he would apologize if only he would stop using his magic. His whole body was trembling with fear. Carter then admitted in front of everyone that Roa hadn't stolen anything. A black-haired guy with cold sweat dripping off him apologized to Roa for his accusations. Roa, still frowning, stared at Carter in silence. But then the guy just sighed with fatigue and stopped using his magic skill. The fire spear disappeared into thin air when disconnected. The blonde guy didn't want to make a fuss in such a place. He just wanted Carter to tell everyone what rumor he had started about him. Carter, after listening to the guy's words, understood everything. He was still scared that Roa could use magic. Then Carter, with tears in his eyes, wanted to tell everyone the identity of the one who stole the magic stones. Turning towards the crowd, Carter pointed his finger at the guild employee. He told everyone that the one who stole the precious magic stones was an employee of the guild. The man was shocked by the sudden accusations. The man began to deny it. He anxiously informed everyone that he was not a thief. The employee has always taken his job seriously. Carter continued to point at the man. The black-haired guy even interweaved Roa into his conversation. Roa realized angrily that Carter didn't want to confess in front of everyone. All he did was provoke and deceive. Carter continued to put pressure on the poor guild employee. The guy wanted to put all the blame on the man for stealing the magic stones. Therefore, in order for the man to confess to the theft, he applied the magic wind bullets to him. Immediately, the wind magic headed towards the frightened employee. Roa only frowned at Carter's actions. At the same moment, Carter's magic was destroyed by Roa's fiery spear. The guild employee was protected from the attack of the black-haired guy. Roa then informed Carter that he wanted him to tell everything himself. But it doesn't seem like that's going to happen. Therefore, the guy attracted everyone's attention to himself. Roa wanted to show them something with his magic. A magic ball appeared in the palm of his hand. The blonde guy used the spell Magic of Life, which consisted in recording and playing it back. The next moment, Carter's voice was heard in the tavern. The visitors were stunned by this. In the recording, Carter's voice spoke about his plan to turn in the thief and get rewarded for it. At that moment, the guy was out of money, so he wanted to get extra money with Bertie's help to pay his bills. Carter's father frowned. The man was holding a saber in his hands. Bertie didn't care about the guy's circumstances. Without proof, the man couldn't believe Carter's words. Therefore, he could only give him advice. Hearing Bertie's voice, Carter turned pale all over. His body began to tremble with horror. He knew what advice Bertie would give him. Bertie's last words in the recording of the conversation with Carter were about the guy stealing magic stones from his father's store. All the visitors were stunned by the recording they heard. Carter looked around in panic and fright. Cold sweat dripped from the black-haired guy. Carter turned pale and tried to justify himself to the others, but he couldn't find the words to justify himself. Immediately behind the guy was an angry and gloomy man with a bandage. Carter sensed his father's presence and turned even paler. Carter's father was angered by his son's act. He taught him a lesson right in the tavern. Roa was stunned by the scene of Carter's punishment. The guild employee thanked Roa for his help. All the other residents were glad that Carter had received punishment from his father. They thanked the guy with tears in their eyes for his heroic actions. Roa, seeing their reaction, realized that Carter had annoyed everyone a lot. But now others would no longer laugh at Roa for not being able to do anything, so the young man was glad. Maybe he will finally be able to give life. The guy happily accepted the praise from the villagers. The next day, he came to the guild. A group of men invited Roa to join their team. They were looking for a strong ally to protect their backs in battle. Also, the blonde guy was offered to join the team by a company of girls. They promised to take care of him with a pretty smile. Even a muscular man with flowers suited the guy. He stammered out to Roa that he was a fan of his. Therefore, the man also invited the guy to join his team. Roa entirely refused everyone. The guy told him that at the moment he wanted to be alone. The man accepted the guy's words. Breaking the stone wall, he ran out of the guild. The man promised Roa that he would work on his muscles and come back. Roa looked at it awkwardly. Just that day, as many as 5 groups tried to recruit him into their team. The guy thought that the demand for magicians was great. However, if he forms a team with someone, such as Birdie, then the experience points will be divided equally among the team members. It was ineffective for Roa due to the specifics of his skill. Therefore, the guy will have to go alone, gain experience in battles, and become cooler. Roa decided to practice his magic. Most importantly, he shouldn't have done any more magic performances. Immediately upon entering the guild, the guy was greeted by a guild employee. The man with glasses was waiting for him. The guild employee needed his guild card. Roa was surprised by the sudden request, but he gave the man his card anyway. The man with glasses took the card from the guy. He then informed Roa with a smile that he had some news for him. A guild employee congratulated Roa. It turns out that the guy was promoted from F rank to E rank. Roa's eyes widened at the news. The guy was stunned by the advancement of his rank. He didn't understand why he was promoted. Then the guild employee explained to him how it works. The rank of an adventurer was based on a person's contribution to the guild and their own abilities. The recent incident proved that Roa was good enough for the E rank. Then the man gave the guy his new guild card. Now his card has been changed to a different color, namely from iron to bronze. Roa picked up his new card and admired it. The employee was a little worried about the guy's reaction. Roa was a little stunned to receive a new rank. After all, he was the only one who took so long to get to the E rank. The man said to himself with some sadness that he would miss the previous version of the guy a little. Now they will no longer see Roa returning home after being bitten by a slug. After a while, Roa was already in the dungeon. The guy was still excited about his new guild card. After all, he became an E-rank adventurer. He was happily examining his bronze-colored card. Happily holding up his card, Roa decided to hunt demons. After all, he was already an E-rank adventurer. Roa was in a great mood. Suddenly, a rude voice was heard in the dungeon. He rudely told a stranger named Sonia that she should be in the vanguard. Roa was stunned by the unexpected voice, but it turns out that Birdie's group was not far from him. The team is currently dealing with the monsters. Roa, on the other hand, disappeared from their sight so as not to catch their eye. The team members rudely pointed out to a girl named Sonia to come to her senses and do her job. The guy pointed out the girl's position in the team. She was a tank. The battered girl with the shield apologized to her comrades. She promised them that she would do her best. The girl was holding a heavy shield in her hands. It was almost as tall as she was. Roa, looking at how Birdie scolded the girl, found him disgusting. The tank's position included a shield that holds the enemy's attacks on itself. Sonia looked like a man from the rear guard. She was slender and of the rear guard type. And yet, the girl always took care to become a target for the enemy. The guy did not understand why her comrades were criticizing the girl so much. He realized that it wasn't easy for her to be on such a team. Then Roa had already turned away from Birdie's team. He did not intervene and did not help the girl, because he thought it was none of his business. The guy wanted to leave already. How suddenly a goblin with a sword appeared behind Sonia, who wanted to attack her. Sonia did not notice the enemy. Her companions only pointed out to the girl with horror that there was a monster behind her. None of them tried to help her. Sonia could only expect an attack from the monster. Because her shield was heavy for fast movement, a blonde girl called out to Sonia and warned her about the monster behind her. The team did not try to save the girl, and Sonia couldn't manage to defend herself from the monster. He had already swung his sword to attack her. It was difficult for the girl to defend herself from the monster behind her because she was attacked from two sides. Her defenses couldn't stand it anymore. Sonia just had to close her eyes in despair. But suddenly, the monster that tried to attack her was defeated by powerful fire magic. It was Roa who used the fire spear and eliminated the monster. Sonia stared at the defeated monster in a daze. She noticed that he had been eliminated by magic. Therefore, the girl thought that she was saved by a sorceress from her team. Sonia told the sorceress that she had saved her in time. If only a little more, and the irreparable would have happened. The blonde girl did not understand Sonia's words at first. Sonia thanked the blonde girl for her rescue, even though the sorceress knew it wasn't her. But the blonde girl accepted Sonia's gratitude with arrogance. She also wanted even more gratitude from Sonia. The sorceress began to be asked about how she managed, but the girl still lied about saving Sonia. All this was heard by Roa, who was leaving in the other direction. The guy, walking away from Birdie's team, was glad that he was not noticed and people did not see him. He didn't want to get into trouble. Roa continued on his way. He was thoughtful. All adventurers are aware of the risks of this profession. Someone can steal the reward from another adventurer, so few people help each other outside the team. The guy understood that. However, if he hadn't done anything, the girl would have just been eliminated by the monsters. And he didn't want to see it. After using magic to attack the girl, his mana became less. The magic skill Fire Spear took as much as 40 mana units from him. The rest of the characteristics were fine. Also, the guy was already at the 50th level. The magic creation skill he received allows him to use the item creation skill. Thus, Roa already has 2 unique skills. He had to use both of them. Then the guy applied them. After using 2 skills at once, the blonde guy received a mana recovery potion. The required level to create it was the 10th level. The effect of this potion was to restore 300 mana units. Roa spent 20 levels of potions on this. Previously, he needed 50 levels to obtain a potion. Now the price was 30 levels less. After getting the right amount of potions, the guy proceeded to spend his remaining levels to create a new type of magic. Roa discovered a new type of skill. Namely, he found a small box for items. This type of magic did not consume mana. Its effect was to store objects in another space. The box could store up to 100 items. A box for small items was soon created. A small magic circle appeared near the Roa. The guy had 2 mana recovery potions available. Roa easily took out a potion from the space of a small box. It was very convenient for him. Since he couldn't easily increase his maximum mana by consuming levels when buying skills and items, mana recovery was his lifeline. Inspired, Roa decided to continue fighting in this dungeon in order to gain more levels. The guy wanted to get more mana recovery potions. On the first day of his level-up marathon to get potions, the guy increased the number of potions by 12 units. In total, he had 44 mana recovery potions in his space. On the second day, the guy increased the number by 20 potions. On the way, he saw Birdie's team again. The blonde sorceress scolded sad Sonia again. On the third day, Roa was able to create 30 potions with the help of defeating monsters. He now had as many as 94 mana recovery potions. On the fourth day, the guy completely filled a drawer with items. He now had as many as 100 mana recovery potions. Roa happily held the 100th bottle of potion and looked at it. Now he didn't have to worry about mana. Then Roa went down the stairs. The lowest level of the E-rank dungeon was waiting for him. The blonde guy wanted to look at the lower level boss. While walking down the stairs, Roa noticed something. Roa saw through the barrier that someone was trying to fight the dungeon boss. It was the girl with the shield, Sonia. She was facing a monster of the lower level of the dungeon. In front of her was a monster of enormous size that made a croaking sound. It was the Frog King. The monster looked like a frog of enormous size. The recommended level for his victory was the 120th level. The monster itself had a D rank. Roa stared at the monster with his mouth wide open. The guy was stunned to notice that he was just huge in size. He realized that it was the main boss of the dungeon. Suddenly, the monster began to attack. He attacked the girl with his long tongue. With the help of his tongue, The Frog King struck the girl, but she was able to defend herself from his attack, thanks to her shield. Then the monster swung its frog paw and attacked the girl again, trying to push Sonia's shield. The girl barely kept her shield from the monster's pressure. Roa noticed the strangeness of the fight. He was stunned that the girl was fighting alone against the monster. The rest of her team was not in sight nearby. The girl was alone. Being a tank, Sonia will not be able to win against the monster alone. The guy tensed up. He realized that the girl could be eliminated by the monster. Roa immediately wanted to run to her and help her, but the guy stopped himself. After all, he thought about it because of one thought. Roa wanted to refuse to help the girl. After all, this is what all adventurers do. He was sure that the girl knew what she was doing. She was an adventurer, so she had to fight for her life. Sonia defended herself from the frog's attack with her shield. The guy was the same. He always believed that there was no point in having someone around. That's why Roa was always alone. The guy looked sadly at his hand, clenched into a fist. He was sure Sonia was the same. Roa thought that she didn't want someone else's help to stop her from becoming stronger. The guy was already climbing the stairs again, when suddenly he stopped. At the thought that she didn't need help, the guy thought about it. The gloomy Roa was in thought. It wasn't like that. The truth was that Roa would like someone to help him. It was just that the guy was ashamed of these thoughts. He was trying his best to prove to himself that he wasn't weak. The guy was thinking about whether he should offer his help to the girl. He also thought it was his business to interfere in the battle. But seeing how the girl was helplessly waiting for the monster's attack, the guy made a decision. He didn't care if it was his business anymore. Roa decided that the girl could tell him everything after the rescue. Therefore, Roa attacked the royal frog with a fiery spear, preventing the monster from attacking the girl. Although the frog was not defeated by his attack, the monster stopped for a moment. The guy realized that it was impossible to defeat the enemy with one blow. Sonia was stunned by the sudden rescue. She wanted to know the guy's identity. Roa only introduced himself to her as an adventurer who was passing by. He also informed the girl that he would take over this boss. The battered Sonia stared at her rescuer in a daze. Meanwhile, the guy and the monster were looking at each other. To overcome the royal frog, the 120th level was recommended, and Roa's current level was only the 40th. The guy realized that the level difference between him and the king frog was too high. However, he couldn't leave the girl in trouble. The guy looked at the girl. Sonia couldn't even move. She was too injured and exhausted from fighting alone. Therefore, Roa had to deal with the monster himself. Suddenly, the royal frog attacked the guy with its tongue. He was able to dodge the blow. The impact of the frog shattered the stone floor slabs into pieces. After seeing the effects of the monster's attack, Roa realized that he could be eliminated by one blow from it. However, he had a plan, in the form of hitting the royal frog with magic. But the guy did not have time to use magic, as he was immediately attacked by the royal frog again. The frog wanted to destroy the guy with its mouth, but Roa was able to bounce off it and not get hit. The monster, without stopping, tried to damage the guy again, which made Roa a little panicked. The guy ran away from her, for some distance from such pressure from the royal frog. After all, his magic spell, Fire Spear, needed 4 seconds to activate. The king frog prevented the guy from activating the spell, which is why he couldn't use it. Suddenly, Sonia wanted to say something to the guy. The injured Sonia barely informed the guy that the royal frog had a weak spot. It was on her belly. Therefore, Roa should have aimed at her stomach. The blonde guy thanked Sonia for the hint. Then he got into a fighting stance. The guy, holding his sword, was thinking about how to get into the belly of the monster. After all, it was difficult to get into this place with magic. But he had another option. If the magic doesn't work, Roa can always use her potions. Immediately, a bottle of potion appeared from his space. When Sonia saw this, she was surprised to realize that it was a mana recovery potion. At the same moment, a huge royal frog jumped towards the guy. Although Roa was able to dodge the frog's attack, unfortunately the potions did not affect the monster. The potion bottles just smashed on the floor. Therefore, Roa summoned the potion bottles from his space again. But again, the potion attack failed. However, the guy did not try to stop. He called for more potions again. That wasn't all. The injured girl warned the guy about the danger. The king frog jumped up and towered right above Roa. The guy was ready. He was completely calm in front of the towering royal frog. The guy knew what to do. Roa took a potion from his space and prepared to attack with them. When the huge frog approached the guy, Roa threw a bottle of potion directly into the eye of the royal frog. Upon collision with the monster, the bottle broke into small pieces. The frog screamed from the pain in his eye and forgot about the guy. The monster was distracted by the pain, so the royal frog stood in one place. The next second, Roa was heading towards the monster. The guy activated a magic circle while running. Then he started the countdown. It took him 4 seconds to activate the magic spell. The guy kept getting closer to the king frog. The monster was still trying to move away from Roa's last attack. Therefore, the guy easily approached the frog. He slid over the liquid of the broken potion to speed up the process. Approaching the monster, Roa jumped down under the frog and found himself in the right place. At the same moment, the guy's countdown was over. The activation of the magic spell has begun. After the 4 seconds to activate Roa's magic skill ended, a fiery spear appeared from the magic circle and attacked the royal frog right in its weak spot, namely in the stomach. The monster was defeated by this attack. The guy defeated the dungeon boss. A stunned Sonia looked at all this from the side. The girl was stunned. When she saw what the guy was attacking with, she realized that this magic was familiar to her. It was the magic that saved her from the monster's attack. Ro also informed her that he had not tried to use potions for himself. He just spread them out to reduce friction and increase sliding. Then the guy put his hands on his hips and said with a self-confident smile that it's not easy to be cool. For a second, the girl didn't know what to say. Then, with tears in her eyes, Sonia thanked the guy. After that, she informed him that the guy had shrapnel in his back. But Roa was calm about it. Suddenly, the blonde guy felt something. The guy received notifications from the system. It turns out that he got experience points for defeating the dungeon boss. The Roa level was raised from the 40th to the 70th. The guy also received the status of Foiled the Conqueror of the Dungeon. This achievement increased his health points by as much as 100 points. He now had about 300 health points. Roa was glad to hear the news. Not only did he raise his level by as much as 30 points, he was also able to get an achievement for defeating the dungeon boss. Suddenly, Roa noticed that Sonia had fallen to the floor. The girl fainted from fatigue and wounds and was unconscious. Her body could not restrain itself. Roa was scared by this. The guy quickly ran up to the girl. He lifted her off the floor and held her with his hands. Roa realized that Sonia was already on the verge. The girl was severely injured while defending against the monster. Therefore, Roa acquired a health recovery potion with the help of his skill. To obtain such a potion, he needed to spend 10 levels. The guy wanted to give the girl a drink of it. However, Sonia, although in a serious condition, tried to give up the potion. The girl couldn't accept it because the potion was too expensive. Then Sonia began to shake in a fit of agonizing coughing. Roa, seeing the deterioration of the girl's condition, immediately forced her to drink a health restoration potion. He told Sonia that this potion didn't cost him anything. After the girl drank the potion, she felt good. The pallor had disappeared from her face, and her battle wounds had also disappeared from the potion. Sonia was already feeling much better. Sonia didn't know how to thank him for saving her life twice. The guy was surprised to hear her say the word twice. Then the girl explained that when she saw his magic, she realized that he had saved her from the goblins earlier. Ro awkwardly agreed with her on this, but the guy didn't want her to thank him for that. Sonia refused his words. She appreciated his action and himself very much. After that, the guy introduced himself to the girl. Ro confessed to the girl that he knew her name. He heard it from her comrades. Then the guy wanted to ask Sonia where to divide her team members. The girl's face immediately changed. Sonia sadly informed him that her teammates had run away at the beginning of the battle. They left her alone against the king frog. Roa, frowning, was angry that the members of Birdie's team had left Sonia alone. He was angry at the news. The girl occupied the position of a tank in the team and always went into battle first. But when her comrades saw who the battle was going to be against, they realized that they could not defeat the king frog and just left, leaving her alone. Roa was angered by this. After all, Sonia's comrades left her, even knowing that she would be eliminated by the monster. The guy didn't understand why she went with them. Sonia informed him that she had a unique skill, namely, the impregnable skill. It did not allow the girl to get attacking skills. Therefore, The only way for her to survive is to join the team and endure all the actions from others. If Rawa hadn't come, the girl would have had worse consequences. Sonia smiled sadly at the guy with tears in her eyes. The guy, frowning, was in thought after the girl's words. Sonia had the same unfortunate abilities as he had before. That's why she was always looked down on. The upset girl was wiping tears from her face. Only Sonia was worse off than Roa. Therefore, she couldn't even fight against monsters and others. The guy was clouded by these thoughts, and Sonia noticed this. The girl was worried about the guy's condition. However, he suggested that she return to the village. The guy's hands were clenched into a fist out of anger. Her teammates were probably having dinner at the tavern right now. Roa couldn't let this go on. He apologized to the girl because the guy wanted to help her a little more. The guy was very angry. Sonia looked at Roa with incomprehension. Meanwhile, in a tavern in the village of Foil, Sonia's teammates were happily drinking their drinks. The man and the girl were talking about the situation in the dungeon. They left in a hurry. Birdie had heard from others that there was a D-rank monster in the dungeon, but he didn't expect him to be so big. The man was drinking his drink with a grin. The blonde girl was glad that they got out of the battle with this monster. She felt sorry for Sonia only in words. After all, that was the price of adventure. You always need to be prepared for something like this. Then they laughed out loud. Suddenly, a gloomy Roa and a worried Sonia entered the tavern. Birdie was shocked when he saw the girl. The sorceress was also stunned by Sonia's appearance. The man thought that she had already been eliminated by the monster. He asked Sonia in disbelief why she was still alive. But his question was interrupted by a blonde girl. She stopped Birdie with her punch. The sorceress rubbed her skin near her eyes, thereby causing tears to flow. Then the girl with fake tears pretended to be glad that Sonia was back and that nothing had happened to her. The blonde girl approached Sonia and hugged her tightly. She feigned alarm and told Sonia that she was worried about her and that she was trying to stop her from fighting the monster alone. Sonia was stunned not only by the girl's sudden embrace but also by her words. The girl opened her eyes wide. She couldn't say anything to the words of the sorceress. Roa realized that the girl was trying to play the public and make Sonia look stupid. He was angry about it. The guy knew that adventurers were surprisingly concerned with public opinion in order to attract strong participants. In order to punish them, there was no better way than to lower their reputation. That's why the guy, loudly and displeased, informed everyone that it was Sony's team that left her alone with the monster. Birdie looked at Roa with panic and displeasure. The guy continued to speak angrily. He informed everyone that they had left Sonia to fight the King Frog and escaped. The girl would have been eliminated if Roa hadn't saved her. Roa then pointed out that this team would be able to do this to someone again. The guy continued to scold the team loudly. Birdie wanted to stop Roa because he was talking too loudly, thereby attracting the attention of visitors. But the angry Roa did not stop because he was telling the truth. Then Birdie began to deny all the guy's words and asked him for proof about the dungeon. Roa replied that he had proof. At the same moment, something appeared on his palm. Roa informed everyone that he had destroyed the King Frog, and the magic stone in his palm was proof of that. After all, it is impossible to get it without eliminating that monster. If the team hadn't escaped, they would have had the same one. But Birdie came up with an excuse for this. The man pointed to Roa's item creation skill. He said that Roa can create a magic stone with his skill. Then Birdie also said that he had already exchanged his magic stone for money. The man also said that Sonia was alone because she liked to act on her own. The blonde girl agreed with Birdie's words. All the customers of the tavern did not know which side to take. Roa, seeing the indecision of the visitors, absently left them to decide for themselves who to believe. Roa then pointed at Sonia's face to everyone. The girl turned pale with horror and fright. Her whole body trembled involuntarily. It was easy to see who was lying in the situation. The visitors, seeing Sonia pale and scared, realized that she was not lying about the team. The crowd looked at Birdie and the blonde sorceress with disapproval, because they had left their comrade in trouble. Roa looked at it with a nasty grin. He didn't care about his reputation. It was already at the bottom. But he did not know what would happen to Sonia's former comrades. Birdie got angry at the guy's ridicule. Out of anger, the adventurer attacked the guy. The angry man wanted to attack him, but Roa had already calmly dodged his attack. Then the guy defended himself from the man's attack with his palm and grabbed Birdie by the collar. In one motion, he knocked the man to the floor. Roa dealt with the enraged Birdie with ease. The guy is already used to fighting against people like Birdie. A man can't beat him in a fight without rules. Birdie, getting up from the floor, was only angrier at Roa's words. The sorceress, holding her staff at the ready, did not stay away, and also wanted to help Birdie deal with Roa. But their fight was interrupted by a furious shout from a guild employee. The man with glasses was angry about the whole situation. He ordered them to calm down in an angry voice. Then, continuing to shout at them in an angry voice, the man ordered them to go outside. If they continue to fight, the man will deprive them of their guild card, and then he will look at them. Birdie was shocked that the soft-hearted guildmaster had lost his temper. There was already a similar case in the guild tavern the other day. Sonia, realizing the seriousness of the guildmaster's words, pulled Roa by the hand. She wanted to leave the room. After they went outside, Roa looked at the girl with incomprehension. Sonia told him that he had gone too far. Sonia thanked the guy with a happy smile for his help. She felt much better already. Roa looked stunned at the smiling girl. But then he also accepted Sonia's gratitude with a smile. Then he should have taken a fight he wasn't ready for. The guy and the girl were smiling happily at each other. After a while, they were already in the cafe. There were sumptuous dishes on the table. Sonia happily offered the guy to eat the dishes. The girl would pay for everything herself, so he didn't have to worry. Roa looked at the sumptuous dishes with shock. The guy noticed that all the dishes were cooked appetizingly to perfection. Roa was stunned that he could eat it. But Sonia didn't think it would be close enough to repay the guy for saving her. After he found out that he could eat everything, Roa began to eat the grilled meat. After taking a bite of the dish, the guy fell into ecstasy. After all, there was a lot of meat in this dish, which made Roa happy. Although the girl was embarrassed by this, she was glad that Roa was pleased with the taste of the dish. The truth is, the guy has never eaten something so delicious. Sonia was a beginner, so she probably didn't know about his situation. Roa told her that he had learned magic only a few days ago. The guy also said that before that everyone had laughed at him as a fool. Roa saved Sonia's life because he was alone. The guy also admitted that at some point he tried to escape. Therefore, he did not think that he deserved such gratitude from the girl. That's why the guy wanted to pay her for dinner. Roa has decided to cash out the magic stone, so he will have the money. Sonia, hearing the guy's words, fell silent for a second. However, the girl said that he still, in the end, did not give up on her and saved her. She knew that the guy didn't care about the difference in strength, and that was a fact for Sonia. That's why Sonia wanted to do more for him. She wanted to repay the guy for that. Then the girl suggested that Roa organize a group with her. Roa, still eating the dish, was stunned by the girl's suggestion. The guy was surprised that the girl wanted to create a group with him. Sonia confessed to him that she was actually a noblewoman. She has only recently taken up adventure in order to survive. Sonia has come almost from scratch. Therefore, she thought that they were kindred spirits in this regard. The guy, still eating meat, was stunned by her words. Then, after thinking about it for a while, he realized that it was true. During the last battle, he had learned from his own experience that it was difficult to fight alone. A tank like Sonia could have a good balance between the vanguard and the rear guard. Roa agreed with the girl's proposal. They'll team up if she doesn't mind. The girl was happy with the guy's consent. She was beside herself of happiness. Sonia, of course, did not object to the association. Now they had something to pay with. Then the guy and the girl clinked glasses with a drink. They were looking forward to working with each other. The next day, the guy was sleeping soundly in bed. Roa spent the night in his room, which he rented at the hotel. As soon as the rays of the sun appeared in the room, Sonia immediately appeared and began to wake Roa from sleep. The sleepy guy was struggling to open his eyes. As the girl informed him, it was already past noon. Sonia wanted him to wake up. The guy finally barely opened his sleepy eyes. A scene that stunned him appeared before him. The girl, raising her huge shield, stood over the guy. Then Sonia stuck her shield into Roa's bed. The excited guy instantly woke up and managed to dodge her attack. Sonia, after all her actions, wished the guy a good morning with a smile. The terrified Roa was shocked by the recent scene. He didn't understand what was going on and why the girl was in his room. Sonia explained to him that their rented rooms in the hotel were next door to each other. So she came to wake him up, and the door to his room was unlocked. Roa remembered with a headache how last night he sent Sonia to the same hotel where he was. The guy had drawn so much drink that he didn't remember much about last night. I only asked Sonia for more meat when I was drunk. The girl asked the guy if he always got up at such a time. The guy did not answer her question in the negative. He always woke up later, because he liked to sleep in the morning. Then Sonia asked the guy if he was lazy a lot. Roa agreed with this. The blonde guy often heard from others that he was too lazy. Then Sonia joyfully suggested to the guy that from that day on, she would wake him up. But immediately, Roa refused the girl's help in a desperate voice. Noticing that the guy did not like her proposal, Sonia then told him to get up early. The girl was already leaving the guy's room. Then she stopped at the exit. The girl with flushed cheeks informed Roa that his sleeping face was very cute. Roa was deeply shocked by Sonia's actions. He watched with an indifferent face as the girl left his room. Then the guy looked at his ruined bed in a depressed state. He did not know that it was so difficult to organize a group. After a while, the team consisting of Sonia and Roa was already outside. The girl informed Roa that she had applied to join his group. Then Sonia suggested to the guy that if he wants, they can view each other's statistics. The girl's full name was Sonia Clark. She was 17 years old. At the moment, her level was at the 65th level. The guy, when looking at the characteristics of the girl, noticed that her defense was the quintessence of a number. Her defense points were 8 times higher than his. Sonia noticed that the guy had 2 unique skills, which was unusual for her. The guy was surprised by the girl's words. After all, Roa believed that other adventurers had it the same way. But it wasn't like that. The girl strongly denied this. Sonia has already seen many teams and has not seen anything like this among them. She also noticed that Roa wasn't conceited about it. He used his power to help her, not to earn money. Sonia smiled and praised the guy for his actions and called him a kind and amazing person. The girl looked at Roa with admiration, which made Tom uncomfortable. Roa was not used to such attention, so he was embarrassed. Then the blonde guy, calming down a little, asked the girl where they would go that day. The girl couldn't answer his question. Then Roa offered her E-rank dungeons. The girl, hearing the rank of the dungeon, became alert. The guy continued talking. If Sonia didn't mind it, then Roa already had a plan. He was thinking of going to the deepest part of it. The memory of the frog still lingered in their minds. There were 2 dungeons in the village of Foil. They were of rank E and rank F. The guy told the girl that if you defeat the bosses in both dungeons, you can get an achievement for it. Sonia didn't have an achievement yet, so Roa thought it would be nice to fix it. The achievement will increase the status of the girl. When conquering dungeons of rank E and rank F, everyone gets the achievement of the conqueror of the initial dungeon. Roa saw that the girl frowned at the suggestion of going to an E-rank dungeon. He informed me that he did not insist on it after all that had happened. Sonia was silent for a long time, but then she did not refuse his offer. Her gloomy state quickly disappeared. The girl smilingly agreed to the guy's offer to go and conquer the dungeons. After all, Roa was with her this time. The guy looked at the girl's changed face and approved of the girl's consent. Then he decided to save his new magic for Sonia. Roa has opened his system. The first magic that interested him. With his current level, he should be able to get her. The magic spell was called Fire Volley. Its cost in levels was 50 levels, but his base damage was huge. Soon the guy acquired a Fire Volley. Magical lights surrounded the guy. The girl looked at it in surprise. Roa then explained to Sonia that the peculiarity of his skill was that he could spend his levels. All this was so that he could get different items and magic, just that he had used all 50 levels out of 60. Therefore, he now had the 10th level. With a confident smile, Roa informed Sonia that if he was hit by any attack, he would be eliminated immediately. Sonia, hearing the guy's words, shouted in shock. Roa has been doing this for a long time, so he will be fine. The guy wasn't worried about it. Sonia understood that the guy's actions were very brave. She didn't think she would ever be able to be like him. Then the girl decided to prevent the attack on the guy. She won't let anyone touch him. Roa was very encouraged by this. A guy and a girl were looking at the entrance of one of the two dungeons. After that, Roa looked at his palm with a smile. He wanted to try out the power of the fire pillar magic he had recently obtained. The team was already deep in the dungeon. Along the way, they met monsters in the form of bestial wolves. The guy noticed the approach of the monsters and notified Sonia about it. They needed to attack all the monsters at once. Roa needed 4 seconds to attack in order to activate her magic. The girl with the short one was happy to hold her shield. Now it was her turn to protect the guy. Sonia resolutely defended herself from the attack of the bestial monsters with her solid and impregnable shield, preventing them from passing through her. Then the girl, lowering her shield for a moment, took the bestial monsters to one side. After the girl took the monsters to one side, the guy got ready to attack. He noticed that Sonia was doing her job well. In the next moment, Roa cast the magic spell, Fire Spear. The Fire Spear attacked the beast-like monsters, eliminating them with a single attack. The girl looked at the fallen bodies of the monsters with admiration. She noticed that 2 beast-like monsters were defeated at once with one blow. She couldn't believe that Roa was able to remove them so quickly. But the guy believed that this was not only his merit. Roa told the girl that she was great at luring enemies. The girl was embarrassed by the guy's praise. Her cheeks blushed. She shyly wanted to respond to the guy's praise. But their conversation was interrupted. The guy and the girl noticed a kobold fighter near them. The monster, which was in a pretty shape, always appeared at the right moment. Roa applied a fire spear to the monster. He was soon defeated. After a while, the team walked calmly through the dungeon. Roy noticed that they had already reached the lower level. It was fast. The guy asked the girl about getting an achievement. She had to fight the dungeon boss herself. Only victory would ensure her this achievement. Roa also noticed that only yesterday he defeated the king frog. He thought that there was no dungeon boss in the dungeon at the moment. Then Sonia asked Roa if he knew where the monsters came from. But the guy never thought about where the monsters come from. He was just trying to survive. Sonia began her explanation. Monsters were born when something called demonic elements gathered in the atmosphere. Where there was a high concentration of these magical elements, strong monsters were easily born. That's why the deeper he goes into the dungeon, the stronger the enemies become. All this was due to the increased concentration of demonic elements. In other words, the Frog King that Roa defeated may reappear in that place. Sonia uttered the last sentence in a saddened voice. Soon, the guy and the girl were back in front of the entrance to the lower part of the dungeon. The magic barrier that signified the presence of the dungeon boss appeared in front of them again. Roa noticed that the girl next to him was trembling all over from fear of the monster. She still remembered the recent incident that had happened to her. Then the guy calmed her down. He told her not to worry because there was no way he would run away and leave her. The girl, hearing Roa's words, immediately stopped trembling. Then she smiled brightly at her teammate. Sonia told the blonde guy that she believed in him. She was happy with Roa's support. Suddenly, their joyful moment was interrupted. The dungeon boss was approaching them. The girl and the guy immediately got into a fighting stance. Roa had to cast a magic spell immediately. At the same time, Sonia will fend off the monster's attacks. No matter how many times it was, Sonia wanted to destroy the king frog. The monster towering above them was of enormous size. Roa noticed with shock that the king frog was slightly bigger than the previous boss. At the same moment, the king frog released its tongue and aimed for an attack. But now they weren't like the last time. The girl confidently stood on the defensive, putting her shield forward. Quickly, she got down on her knee and was able to parry the monster's attack. The angle of attack of the monster was changed with the help of the girl's actions. Therefore, the frog did not touch the guy with his tongue. Roa stood calmly and was not afraid of the monster's tongue. He was pleased to see that he was immune to attack. He felt safe trying out new magic. Then the guy started activating a new type of magic. It took him 3 seconds to cast this spell. Magic circles appeared near the guy, and Roa started counting down to activate magic. At the same time, the girl diligently defended herself from the monster's attacks, preventing him from approaching Roa. Soon the countdown ended. 3 seconds passed, and the magic was activated. The blonde guy used 3 magic circles to send a fire volley towards the royal frog. The fire volley headed towards the monster and attacked it from 3 different directions. The frog couldn't dodge the attack and was attacked by powerful magic. Explosions formed in the places where the fire volley hit. The dungeon boss was defeated and eliminated by this attack. Sonia was surprised that the monster was defeated so quickly. After all, the Frog King used to be such a threat. But now it only needed one strike to destroy it. The shocked Roa, of course, was thinking about something like this, but he did not expect it to be so easy. His new magic, Fire Volley, had a base damage in the form of lowering enemies by as much as 4,000 health points. Then the guy received a notification from the system. He gained additional experience for defeating a strong opponent. His level has been upgraded from 38th to 58th. In one fell swoop, Roa climbed 20 levels. Roa did not know that the distribution of experience points could raise the level so much. The guy and the girl high-fived each other. The girl happily informed him that she had received an achievement. Sonia has achieved her goal. But for the guy, the fun is not over yet. Roa took out his weapon with a grin. He then furiously set about extracting materials from the monster. The last time they talked, he forgot about it. Sonia looked at Roa's actions with awkwardness. The result for that day was in the form of 24 magic stones of rank E and 1 magic stone of rank D, as well as about 10 pieces of the skin of the royal frog. They will receive a good amount of money for selling these goods. After the guy got all the material, all they had to do was put it all together and put it in the item drawer. Sonia noticed that the magic skill item box was very useful. The guy informed the girl that if they cashed everything, they would have a lot of silver. Suddenly, the guy remembered something, so he called out to Sonia. Roa informed her that he would leave Foil Village the next day. The blonde guy wanted to invite Sonia to go with him to a D-rank dungeon. The boy and the girl were still in the village of Foil. The team was drinking drinks in the tavern. Sonia agreed that it was necessary to leave. Roa's forces were now too great for this village. Roa could have said the same thing about Sonia. Roa was almost level 80, and Sonia was level 82. The guy believed that they were already able to work with the D rank. The girl agreed with him, but there was one problem. They had no idea where the D-rank dungeon was. Roa and Sonia were overwhelmed by the news. They were too weak before, so they didn't think to know about such dungeons. Therefore, Sonia suggested asking other people or finding information by buying a card. But maps with dungeon locations were quite rare. Roa, having heard about the information in maps, thought about it. The next moment, the guy had a great idea. He knew the right place to get information. After a while, they found themselves in an item store. Carter greeted Roa with an anxious and flattering smile. He offered to help him. Carter, still smiling, politely showed the guy the goods from the store. Roa, seeing the black-haired guy, was surprised by his changing character. Then Sonia joined them. She asked about some product from Roa. Carter looked at the stranger in a daze. The girl asked the guy with a smile if he was friends with the seller. Carter was stunned by her smile. The guy blushed all over. But Roa did not agree with Sonia. He was in the store only on business. Carter, still smiling, asked the guy about a beautiful girl. Then he scolded him in an angry voice. Roa realized that Carter's real character had returned, but Roa didn't care about cursing at him. The guy asked Carter about the map, and preferably there would be dungeons on it. Carter said sullenly that they had no maps. All adventurers want them, so they quickly sell out. He called Roa names. Carter's father suddenly entered the room. The man reported that they had cards. Then, a black-haired man with an eye patch approached his son and furiously told him not to call customers names. A terrified Carter accepted his father's words. After a while, the man brought the card to the team. He gave him the map he had used when he was an adventurer. Sonia noticed that the map was handwritten. They couldn't take away something so important. But the man gave the card to Roa. It was an apology for the trouble his son had caused him. The man also wanted someone strong to have a better card. He said this with a smile. Then Carter's father showed them. If they wanted to get into the next dungeon, then they should have gone to the city of Lamberg, located in the northeast. It took 2 days to get there from the village of Foil. Roa thanked the man for the information. He also informed them that they would leave the village the very next day. Carter, until his father saw it, made a face at the guy. The man only accepted this information with a smile. The village will become quieter. Carter's father will be looking forward to their next meeting to see how they have grown up. The next day came. In the early morning, sleepy Roa yawned tiredly. The guy really wanted to sleep, but Sonia was bothering him. The girl dragged the guy by the collar because he was unable to walk so early in the morning. Sonia continued to walk with a smile. It was a great time for her to walk. The guy sadly realized that they would finally leave this place. He had been struggling with failing skills for so long. When Roa suddenly got a new skill, he wondered why he had to wait so long. Maybe he got it because of all the hard work Roa did. The guy raised his fist high. After leaving the village of Foil, he thanked her for all the years he had lived there. After a while, the team found themselves far from the village. They had a long way to go to the city ahead of them. Along the way, the team encountered various monsters such as slugs. Roa noticed that there were many weak monsters in the area. All of this was happening because the demonic element on the outside was subtle, but they should never have let their guard down. It was rare, but sometimes a pool of magical elements would appear. It was with the help of a large number of magical elements that powerful demons were born. The guy just grinned at her words. He didn't think that they would be stronger than the dungeon monsters. Suddenly, Roa was attracted by a sudden sound. A horse-drawn carriage was running headlong behind them. Roa noticed this in surprise. Sonia turned curiously in that direction. The girl at the controls of the cart was calling for someone. She was very scared and clutched the reins in her hands. She tearfully asked someone to help her. Someone was trying to eliminate her. Although the girl was in a panic, she did not leave the control of the cart. The team was stunned by the cry for help. Then Roa noticed that the wagon was being chased by a demon. The girl and the guy got into a fighting stance and prepared for the approaching battle. But suddenly, as the wagon and the monster approached, they were able to make out the demon. He looked like a huge, bestial bear. The monster's name was Grizzly Bear, and the recommended level for his victory was the 130th level. Noticing the grizzly bear's characteristics, the guy and the girl were in deep shock. They were scared because the demon's level exceeded them by almost 2 times. On the way to the city, they had an accident, and they met a huge bear that was chasing a girl. He was terrifying in appearance. Sonia was shaking all over with fear. But even though she was scared, she still wanted to attract the monster's attention while Roa was using the spell. The guy tried to calm the girl down. He informed the girl that he could attack the monster anyway. The grizzly bear didn't need to be lured. Immediately, Roa began activating the magic spell, Fire Volley. The Fire Volley attacked the grizzly bear from 3 sides, preventing the monster from dodging the attack. The unknown girl was shocked to notice that the grizzly bear had finally left her alone. Sonia praised the guy. Roa also received a notification from the system about gaining additional experience for defeating a strong opponent. He had raised his level by 2 points. Now he had the 80th level. The girl was rushing towards her rescuers. From afar, she was shouting thanks for the help. As she approached the team, she hugged Roa tightly. The stranger was very scared and was grateful for saving her life. Then, continuing to cry from fright, the girl introduced herself to them. Her name was Masha. With tears in her eyes, she said that she thought she would be eliminated by a bear. Roa didn't push the girl away, even though he was embarrassed. But Sonia was outraged by this. The girl told Masha in an indignant voice that she did not respect the man who saved her life if she hugged with such a face. Then, with a warm smile, the girl gave Masha a cloth handkerchief to wipe her tears. Sonia told her that she was spoiling her pretty face with them. Masha looked admiringly at the kind girl and thanked her. After she wiped away her tears, Masha told the team that she was a merchant. The girl was on a familiar road, but then lost her way. She was on her way to Lamberg, but she got nowhere. Roa, hearing where she was going, was stunned. After all, they were also going to Lamberg. Therefore, the guy invited Masha to join them. The girl already wanted to happily agree. But there was one problem. The back of her cart was full of goods, so there was no room for them. There are many travelers and adventurers in Lamberg. Because of this, she brought a lot of supplies. However, Roa wasn't bothered by this. It wasn't a problem for him. The guy approached the cart and prepared to use magic. At the same moment, most of the goods disappeared from the cart and ended up in the space of the Roa's small box. Masha was stunned by the sudden disappearance of things. The girl was scared that all her goods were missing. But the guy calmed her down. He explained to Masha that he had just put the goods in the item drawer, so she didn't have to worry. Masha immediately admired the guy's skill. After all, even the bales of goods fit into the space of the box. She looked at Roa with delight. Sonia couldn't resist praising the guy, too. Roa felt like he was a dog from her praise. Then the guy had an idea. There was now some free space in the back of the wagon, so Roa gathered the hay into a bale. He left a bale of hay in the back. That's how we got a sleeping place. Roa immediately lay down and fell asleep in the wagon. Masha thought with admiration that magic takes so much energy, but Sonia did not agree with this. Roa was just a lover of sleep. Then they went straight to Lamberg. Some time has passed. The girls and the guy have already driven most of the road. During this time, Masha and Sonia could drink tea near the campfire, and Roa slept all the way. Soon, the guy was awakened from his sleep. Because they arrived in Lamberg, a beautiful view of the bustling city appeared to them. Roa immediately jumped up from his sleeping place. The guy had never seen so many people and buildings. Masha noticed that the team was in Lamberg for the first time. Many adventurers used this city as a base due to the large number of requests. Roa thanked the girl for the carriage. Then he informed her that they wanted to walk the rest of the way. Masha accepted this and stopped the cart. The guy, having descended from the cart, used magic and returned the girl's goods back to their place. Masha looked at it with admiration. Then the girl approached the guy. Delighted, Masha noticed the usefulness of Roa's magic. She invited him to go with her. But Sonia immediately refused her, saying that Roa was with her. Masha was very sorry. However, she was also traveling, so there was a possibility that they would meet somewhere else. Then the girl said goodbye to the team. She expected them to invite her to visit when they became great adventurers. Roa also said goodbye to Masha in response. After a while, the team ended up in Lamberg's tavern. Sonia wanted to ask Roa about the rooms in this inn. If they are going to stay there for a couple of nights, they will save money by sharing one room for two. The guy, having heard the offer about the common room, immediately refused. He decided to rent 2 rooms, even if it would cost them more. Sonia didn't understand why he didn't agree, if she didn't mind it. But Roa resolutely refused this, because he would not be able to get a good night's sleep in the morning. However, he told Sonia out loud that he would not allow a beautiful girl like her to huddle in the same room with him. Sonia was stunned and confused by the guy's words. Immediately, her cheeks flushed with an embarrassed blush. The girl covered her cheeks in embarrassment because she didn't think so. But the guy was resolutely trying not to give her thoughts about the common room. The employee of the inn was angered by their actions. Moreover, they can earn a living. The next day, they will go to explore the dungeon. The guy told the girl that they would cash out the loot they would receive in the dungeon, so there was no need to worry about money. Sonia shyly fell silent at the guy's words. Then she whispered to herself that her plan hadn't worked. Roa thought he was behaving like a real gentleman. The guy didn't understand why the girl was in a bad mood. He thought she had a stomachache. The next day, the weather was fine. The sun shone brightly, illuminating the street, on which there were low buildings standing in a row. Sonia wished Roa a good morning and said that she had received some information from the guild while the guy was sleeping. It seems that the D-rank dungeon was located outside the city. The young man noted that the girl got up early again, and Sonia, seeing what hairstyle the guy had on his head, said that the guy looked very dynamic. Because the young man woke up with such a hairstyle, he looked like a completely different person. After overcoming a short path, the couple came to their goal. Seeing that the D-rank dungeon was in front of them, the girl pointed at the entrance with her hand. The entrance to the dungeon was large, flanked by massive columns, but this did not frighten the small team at all. Sonia noticed that even if it was a D-ranked dungeon, it had a completely different atmosphere compared to the previous ones. Roa also noted that entering the dungeon for the first time is always exciting. The girl was so grateful to the guy for her rescue that she told him to leave her and run away if there was any danger inside. Sonia closed her eyes and added that it seemed to her that she was ready for anything, even to sacrifice her life, in order to save the one who once saved her. The girl put her hand on her heart and looked at the young man, repeating the words that she was not sorry to give her life for the sake of another. However, the young man did not want to hear anything like that and said that he did not need such determination from his partner. He absolutely did not want to leave Sonia, so he interrupted her. However, no matter what, the guy was inspired and said that together they would do everything possible to successfully complete the D-Ranks dungeon. Their adventure promised to be very interesting. The corridors replaced each other. The space was quite empty because there was nothing but stairs and passages. Looking around, the young man noted that the place they came to was quite gloomy. Sonia added that it looked very much like an abandoned sewer, because there was dirty water and the tunnels looked like pipes. The girl decided to say that some dungeons are unequal in attributes of the appearing opponents. It seemed to her that there must be a lot of water monsters in this dungeon. Roa thought about what he had heard. Attributes had their advantages and disadvantages. If the attribute was advantageous, the damage was doubled, and if unfavorable, it was halved. Remembering his characteristics, Roa realized that the fire spears and fireballs he had were not at all advantageous against what they would encounter on their way. It is also difficult to distribute the power for attacks, because the fireballs used up a lot. The young man did not know if he would be able to kill the monster with 2 shots, but he had never seen water monsters, so the guy wanted to meet them as soon as possible. The girl helped Roa to come back from his thoughts, shouting to him that an enemy had appeared in front of them. The girl prepared to go to fight and stood in a defensive position. Sonia added that the monster had red armor. Therefore, the young man thought that they would have to fight with a large crab, a little surprised at how funny it sounded. However, the couple clearly saw something that the guy did not expect. The monster was indeed a crab, but it was big and very armored. The level recommended for defeating him was 150th. The monster began to attack. Therefore, Roa shouted to Sonia to distract his attention to himself while the guy prepared to attack. The girl used the homing skill, which concentrated enemy attacks on the one who uses it, increasing the movement speed by almost 1.5 times. The crab actually hit Sonia's shield with its claw, but she was able to take the attack and remained unharmed. The girl looked at the young man standing behind her, who had already managed to prepare to strike back at the enemy. The fireball hit exactly the target and was able to inflict damage on the armored crab, but it could not stop it. The girl, noticing how the monster was preparing to attack again, said that one blow was not enough to win. The young man himself understood this, so he immediately prepared to make another blow in order to get closer to the end of the duel. Using magic again, the guy was able to attack a large monster, and this time the blow was able to cause more significant damage. Sonia saw that their opponent had fallen, after which Rowan noted that this was of course good, but he had absolutely no strength left to make more attacks, if anything. A little distracted, the young man did not immediately notice how one claw approached him, which almost closed on him. Sonia managed to run up to help and use another of her skills, Steel Wall, with which she increased her defense almost twice. The girl smiled slightly and, turning to the guy, noted that she had bought them about 10 seconds of time that could be spent on recuperating for the attack. Roa thanked her and took out a potion to speed up his recovery. After drinking the contents of the bottle, the young man saw how the girl bravely stood with his shield, blocking the monster. Feeling how his strength was replenished, Rai was confident that he would defeat the enemy, so he shouted to the monster that he would roast him. Launching another fireball at the armored crab, the attack reached the target again and was able to destroy the water monster. For defeating a strong opponent, Roll gained additional experience, after which his level was raised from the 80th to the 82nd. The girl was glad that they managed to defeat such a difficult opponent, and said that it was time for them to collect magic stones. Roa said it took him as many as 3 spells to defeat the monster, and in his position, he has only 2 available. The guy added that he would need different items for new spells, which implies a lot of work. Sonia asked if Roa would like to receive lightning magic. The guy was slightly inspired and replied that there really was something he would like to get for a long time. The young man was referring to the lightning throw skill, which consumed not much energy and had a high base attack. This skill was worth as much as 50 levels. Compared to fireballs, the basic lightning attack was lower, but they could be used more often. The girl hesitated a little after listening to the young man. Lightning was indeed a very profitable and useful attribute. However, there was one thing, which was that the skill took up many levels. Sonia noted that if the level of Roa decreased by 50, then he would have only 32, which meant a high risk of death from any blow received. The partner doubted whether the risk was too high. The guy decided to cheer up the girl and said that he was pleased to hear such words from her, asking Sonia not to worry so much about him, because he hoped that she would continue to protect and take care of him. Roa was a little embarrassed by his own revelation and thanked his partner, which made her blush a little too, but she smiled and seemed very happy. After the conversation, the young man still acquired the skill, Lightning Throw. Roa looked at his palm and said that he was very interested in how far the new magic could take them along with Sonia. The young man suggested to the girl that they try to go further into the depths of the dungeon. to which he immediately received an affirmative answer, and the team continued their journey. Empty corridors appeared in front of the couple again, which led the travelers further and further into the dungeon. Sonia noted that the further they went, the darker it became, because there was clearly not enough lighting in the dungeon. The girl approached the guy and said that walking in the dark could be dangerous, so they should get closer to each other. The young man added that there might even be an ambush waiting for them in the dark, which worried him. However, Roa knew what to do. He clearly expected to be able to use the light skill, which came in handy at such moments in his life. After a moment, it became very bright in the corridor, after which the young man smiled and looked at the girl, asking if he had solved the problem. Sonia obviously expected something else, but it really got brighter around. Deciding to take another opportunity, the girl clung to the guy again and said that she was still a little cold, so they should still go closer to each other. The guy agreed that it was cool, once again not doing what his partner expected. Roa materialized the firewood that he kept in the item drawer. Using another useful skill, ignition, the young man lit a small fire, but this was not his ultimate goal. Next, after materializing the pot, Roa used the drinking water skill to purify the water. The young man was proud of himself because he did not forget to take the camp kit on their trip, which simplified their stay in the dungeon. The girl, who was counting on completely different actions from the guy, was a little upset, but agreed with him. Resigned to her futile attempts to attract the young man's attention, Sonia tasted the liquid that was in her mug, not expecting anything outstanding from her. Surprisingly, the girl really liked what filled her cup, so she decided to ask what kind of delicious tea it was. The guy replied that he secretly bought this variety when he had money. He thought that the former noblewoman might like something like this. Sonia noted that the young man acted very sweetly and surprisingly gallantly. Roa said that the girl should not be so surprised because he did it only because there was no one else next to him, namely Sonia. The partner was flattered by this attitude. The couple's idyll was interrupted by a monster that appeared on a nearby wall. The ever-dying squid was of the same rank and level as the crab they had recently defeated. Sonia was very scared, because a large tentacle suddenly appeared near her, which grabbed her and lifted her high to the ceiling, causing her to hit her head and scream. Roa did not lose his head. He immediately understood what he needed to do, because now it was not himself who was in danger, but his partner, who could not help herself on her own. The young man used his new skill, Lightning Throw, which he had recently acquired, which caused the tentacle to immediately unclench, releasing the captive, who was successfully able to land on the ground this time without injury. The squid fell into the water, which only meant that the enemy was defeated very quickly. Sonia was unharmed and praised Roa for a great shot. Due to the fact that the opponent's level was significantly higher than that of the young man, additional experience immediately raised the level of Roa from 32nd to 55th. The guy was very happy with his victory. He said that in a situation like this, it would be useful to make up the time of the cast, and the girl, in turn, began to thank the young man for his next rescue, noting the excellent magic of Roa. The guy was so glad that he immediately began to think about what to choose in each situation, because if we are talking about the amount of damage, that a fireball would be the best solution. Depending on the situation, you need to use different magic. Sonia was a little amused by the situation, after which she even said that Roa looked like a little joyful boy who dreamed of something that would happen in the future. The young man was not offended by such a comparison. He only thought that the girl did not understand how serious he really was. Roa looked at his palm and thought that before he'd not even suspected how much fun it was to fight not alone, but with someone. The guy was happy that he was getting stronger and stronger. The young man turned to Sonia and asked her if it was possible to tell that he was a little boy by looking at his face. The girl did not understand what Roa meant at first, and then blushed a little, covering her mouth with her hand. She didn't want to laugh at him. However, Sonia could not restrain herself for a long time, and after a couple of seconds she laughed at the fact that the young man began to make funny facial expressions. Tears were streaming down her partner's face, showing how funny she was. Sonia laughed loudly and compared Roa to slime that was twisted like a rag. The young man was even a little afraid of such a comparison, and was surprised at the imagination of his partner. When the couple returned back to the city, it was already very dark. Night had fallen. During the time they were in the dungeon, they were able to get as many as 20 magic stones of rank D, each of which was worth 2,000. Sonia and Roa were happy with how many items they were able to collect. So they put them on the counter and asked them to cash out their loot. The girl standing at the table saw 2 bags of stones and was surprised that only 2 people got them. The employee apologized and asked the couple to show their guild card to verify their membership. Rolla gladly handed the girl the card, but she accepted it with great caution because she still could not believe in such a success of 2 people. The employee carefully examined the map, but did not find anything outstanding in it. Looking at the couple again, the girl asked if it was for sure that they themselves had received so many magic stones of rank D. Rolla wasn't surprised by such a question, so he just said that they hadn't stolen anything from anyone. The girl decided to believe the young man and went into another room in order to call an appraiser, in order to verify the true value of the stones that they brought with them from the dungeon. Although Roa didn't show it, he was actually indignant at being constantly suspected of theft and dishonesty. The guy was already thinking that he really looked very weak. Sonia tried to cheer Roa up, saying that this was not the case at all. The girl said that they were E-rank adventurers who had just arrived in Lamberge City. So it's not surprising that no one believes them, because it's rare for a small group to achieve such results. The guy was completely drooping, so the girl took him by the collar and began to shake him from side to side to cheer him up, saying that he was very strong. The employee apologized for the wait and returned to the couple with the appraisers. The man was also biased, so he decided to check whether these magic stones were definitely not stolen. The man looked at the stones for a long time and carefully checked their authenticity to make sure where they came from. Roa and Sonia stood and waited. The young man was a little upset, but the girl smiled, being sure that they were not lying. However, after checking, the man lowered the stone and looked seriously at the couple, which caused the confidence of the girl and the guys to shake a little. After a while, a smile shone on the man's face. He said the stones could be cashed out. The man also added that over time, the magic stones collected from the monsters begin to collapse, but these have not even started yet. And this condition of the stones meant that these were a fresh harvest. The girl with glasses was very surprised. The employee immediately began to apologize for her behavior. She was very sorry, but she had never seen people of the same rank as the couple who could receive such a large sum. Roa became even more gloomy at these words. Sonia advised the guy that they should temper their ardor the next time they want to be in a new city. The young man agreed, saying that because of his good mood, he really fought a lot. The girl at the table still felt guilty, so she put the coins in front of her and said she would buy back the magic stones at a slightly higher cost as compensation. Roa was delighted with such luck. The man who appreciated the magic stones asked why the couple needed money so much, to which Roa replied that they needed it for living. However, even though the original purpose of the adventure was money, the young man had fun raising his level. The man, hearing such words, even smiled slightly. The appraiser, without thinking twice, decided to suggest Sonia and Roa to find and get into the monster lair next time. At first, the guy did not understand why they would visit such a place, but the man explained that places where monsters gather can sometimes be found in dungeons above the D rank. However, it is worth going there only when you are confident in your abilities. Sonia looked at Roa and asked him what he thought about it and whether they should even try to go to such places. The guy readily agreed to such an offer. The young man understood that the higher the level of the monster, the more experience he would be able to gain after defeating it. So they definitely had to get to one of these places. Entering the dungeon again, they were met by the same dark corridors and many passages. Roll was very excited. He asked his partner if she had ever seen a monster lair. He was very interested in how many monsters there might be in them. The guy spread his arms out to the sides and showed the girl how many monsters he thought were waiting for them. Roa dreamed of meeting them as soon as possible and destroying them. Sonia urged the young man to calm down a little because he was behaving like a little boy again. The girl thought a little and said that although she had never met with such a person, she was sure that destroying monsters was a very effective way to raise the level. However, Roa's partner was worried that if there were too many monsters, it would be difficult to work with magic. Roa said that while they were at the inn, he was looking through the skill list and saw some useful spells. One of these skills was Thunderbolt, designed for long-range attack. However, the skill cost as much as 150 levels, but it also dealt at least 7,000 damage, consuming 400 units of strength to use the skill. Sonia noticed that this magic had a wide radius, after which Roa added that, in addition, it dealt quite a lot of basic damage. But the guy also noted that the rollback time of the ability and the consumption of power was also not small. In addition, There were not enough levels to acquire Roa. Sonia remembered that at the moment her partner has only 101st level. However, the young man was not discouraged because they had nowhere to hurry. The guy will gradually increase his level until he has enough to acquire the skill. As for the power to use skills, Roa also found one thing while looking through magic that would help him with this problem. The guy pointed to a magic ring that cost 50 levels, helping to increase the power to use skills by 400 units. Sonia was impressed and said that this ring is really worth giving so many levels for it. The young man agreed, so he didn't think much and gave 50 levels, and said that he had no choice but to create a ring, after which he began to do it. After creating the magic ring, Roa immediately put it on himself and showed it to Sonia, asking how she liked his new item. The girl immediately noted that the guy looked very good on his new ring, after which she decided that she wanted to touch him. Roa's partner blushed slightly when she took the young man's palm in her own, and said that the guy's hands were very beautiful, so any ring on his fingers would look wonderful. The young man was a little embarrassed by such a compliment, but did not have time to say anything more, because behind the pair appeared an eternally dying squid, which the young man had previously defeated with one blow. But this time, they quickly defeated him. Time passed quickly, and the couple, deciding to focus on leveling up their levels, stayed in the dungeon for a few days. After the first day, the couple managed to get 25 magic stones of rank D, as well as significantly increase their levels. After Sonia reached the 130th level, strong monsters stopped giving her additional experience. At the end of the second day, the pair mined 18 more magic stones and reached the 150th level each. On the third day, Ro could already get a new skill, Thunderbolt, but he forgot that he needed at least one more level in addition, because if he gave 150 levels, then he simply would have nothing left. Therefore, without wasting time, Roa quickly defeated the armored crab, after which he immediately received the 151st level. He did it because he was furious, and he was not sorry for what he had done. Finally, having fulfilled his wish, the young man acquired a new skill and received the Thunderbolt. Now, in addition to fire attacks, the guy has gained mastery in the skills of Lightning Throw and Thunderbolt. Although the young man became level 1 again, it did not upset him at all, because he acquired the necessary skills that will help him quickly return the level back. Also, Roa had a magic ring that helped him maintain the necessary level of strength to use skills. Sonia smiled a little and said that perhaps there is no one at the first level happier than her partner. The girl was excited that she would soon be able to see the use of strong magic. Roa was also happy and thought that they needed to assemble a group. However, he was surprised after he realized that he was unable to apply for the creation of a group. Sonia explained that it is impossible to create a group whose squad members differ too much in levels. After all, if the difference was more than 10, then it would be too easy, since the small levels simply did nothing, hiding behind those who have it higher. Ro understood what a partner told him, and replied that he would have to raise his level to a certain value again. The girl supported the young man and said that he would succeed if she helped him a little, so she asked to give her some time. Sonia took her shield and said that she would bring some monsters with her so that Roa could easily defeat them. The young man said that 3 or 4 monsters would be enough for him, so the girl doesn't have to take a lot of risks to bring a lot of monsters to him. While Sonia was away, Roa thought that he did not expect such a rapid growth in levels from himself. Previously, in the village, he had tried his best to reach at least the 50th level. Looking at his hands, the young man began to reflect on how much the new magic would raise his level if it helped him destroy all the monsters at once. Perhaps his level will increase by 50 or 60 units. Clenching his fists, Roa was looking forward to his fight with the monsters, thinking about Sonia coming back to him as soon as possible. After a while, Roa heard the girl's voice behind him and noticed that she returned to him quite quickly. However, looking behind Sonia, the guy saw only 2 monsters. Although he asked to bring 3 or 4, but after the girl approached, Roa saw that she was running towards him, fleeing from the monsters. Sonia screamed for the young man to help her as soon as possible. Roa saw that there were not 2 monsters at all, but as many as 8. He was a little shocked that he was even speechless. Deciding not to delay, the guy shouted to his partner that he was starting to prepare for using a new skill, so she should run up faster and be near him. Sonia tried her best and hurried to the young man. A seal formed on the floor and Roa began to prepare to attack, but it took him 7 seconds to use his new skill. Since magic was designed for area damage, if you calculate the time incorrectly, then you can not only hit monsters. However, if you act too late, the enemy may get too close. Roa roughly determined the time it would take Sonia to get to him, and began preparing to use the skill. However, the guy saw that the girl was completely running out of stamina. Sonia ran long and fast, so she was already at the limit. Roa was serious, and only thought about whether they would be able to do everything in time so that none of the two of them would get hurt. Sonia ran and shouted that Roa should not delay an attack as soon as possible because she was already afraid of the approaching monsters that almost caught up with her. The girl was in despair. Tears were streaming down her cheeks. She screamed that she would not have time to escape. Fear and panic gripped her thoughts, but she did not stop moving towards her partner. The Roa was calm. He was confident in his calculations. There were 2 seconds left before he should hit the enemies. After Sonia was already very close, the guy waited for her to be directly next to him, because there was 1 second left. Shouting to Sonia to jump, the girl immediately obeyed the advice and, throwing her shield, jumped towards her partner. Roa caught the girl's body with one hand, and with the other he was already preparing to direct an attack towards the crowd of monsters that were about to attack them. Using her new Thunderbolt skill, the magic rushed straight towards the bait monsters coming closer and closer. Lightning struck all the opponents at once, who came close enough. The seal that the young man had summoned rose high, emitting new lightning bolts. All the monsters that attacked the girl were under the influence of strong magic that Roa launched at them. Sonia, who was watching this spectacle, was shocked by how strong the blow turned out to be. The tears on the girl's face disappeared. A small blush appeared instead. Looking at Roa, Sonia saw how focused he was on their threat. After defeating all the monsters at the same time, windows with the characteristics of the young man appeared in front of the couple. All the characteristics of the Roa immediately began to increase. As a result, Roa Foil immediately gained the 110th level. His health and defense increased significantly, and the strength needed to use the skills exceeded all his expectations. Sonia was delighted with what she saw and could only say that it was amazing. Roa was also very happy. He couldn't believe that from the first level, he would immediately rise to the 110th. The reality exceeded all his expectations. The guy was so happy that a little blush appeared on his face too. The girl praised her partner, saying that he managed to defeat as many as 8 monsters in one blow. Roa only replied that he was glad that nothing had happened to Sonia, and she was fine. The girl felt guilty and closed her eyes. She understood that they were in danger because of her and was very upset. The guy only replied that, now you shouldn't worry, because everything went well, and thanks to the girl, Roa was able to get a lot of experience. Looking back, the young man looked at the floor and added that, in the near future, they definitely would not have problems with money, because there were a lot of magic stones left after the monsters. Roa didn't even want to put all the stones in a bag, so he just used magic to keep them all together in the inventory. Sonia went on to say that Roa is an amazing person. The girl added that with the help of the guy's magic, it would be much easier for her to clean her room. The guy didn't understand what kind of compliment it was. After all the stones were collected, the couple heard cries for help from one dark corridor. Roa even thought at first that it seemed to him that a human voice was calling them. Quickly running in the direction from which the sound was coming, the guy and the girl were in a hurry to help someone. The scream came from one person, which meant that someone needed help. Roa saw a man who was desperately fighting a monster. The man, seeing that they came to his aid, asked him to deal with the monster faster. The lone adventurer was desperate because he was surrounded by monsters. He realized that he could not cope alone, so he called for help. Sonia, looking at the stranger, saw that he was injured. Roa didn't waste a minute and hurried to help the man. Roa told Sonia to gather all the enemies into one pile. The girl's partner wanted to use his new skill again, roughly calculating the attack range. Using the Thunderer's Lightning, Roa defeated all the monsters at once with one blow, which posed a danger to a stranger. The lone adventurer was shocked by the ease and speed with which Roa dealt with so many monsters. The man had never seen anything like this before, and did not believe that only one guy could do it. Coming closer to the stranger, Roa asked if he was okay, because the adventurer was covered in blood. However, the guy thanked the young man and assured him that he was fine, thanks to him. Looking at Roa, the stranger saw how quickly the young man's previously high characteristics had increased. The guy now possessed the 121st level. Surprised at how quickly the young man's level was growing, the stranger exclaimed in surprise. But Roa asked him to just ignore it, because after defeating so many monsters, it should not surprise. The stranger decided to thank his rescuers and took them to one of the buildings to treat them. The man was glad to be saved and thanked the couple, so he said they could eat whatever they wanted and he would pay for it all, regardless of the cost. Roa asked if the stranger was sure of this because they had not done anything particularly outstanding, as the young man thought. But this was not the case at all. They helped the man to save his life, which is why he was so grateful to them. A little later, the stranger apologized for not introducing himself yet. It turned out that the young man's name was Eric, and he was a D-rank adventurer. The girl sitting opposite also introduced herself. Sonia also told me the name of the guy who saved Eric, calling him a man with a good appetite. Roa was a little surprised by this characterization, but he didn't mind. Eric turned to the guy and told him that despite his youthful appearance, he was quite an experienced adventurer. The young man clarified and asked what rank Roa had, because in order to use strong magic, you had to have a rank of at least C. Roa looked up from eating his well-deserved dinner and replied that he was only at the E rank. Eric was shocked and asked to stop lying to him because Roa could not have a rank lower than that of the youngest person. The man asked if the guy had become an adventurer recently, but Roa has been doing this for quite a long time. Sonia intervened in the conversation and added that the young man's situation was really quite difficult to explain, but the guy never laughed at anyone and was a good person. Because of this, Eric was a little confused. Roa decided to ask why Eric was in the dungeon alone, and not with his group. It turned out that the young man used to be in the group, but recently left it. Eric admitted that he was kicked out because he couldn't stand the competition. The young man thought he could cope on his own, but he made a mistake and put himself in danger. Roa replied that this was a common story among adventurers. Eric was a little depressed and said that maybe he just wasn't cut out for teamwork and adventure in general. The girl decided to cheer up the young man and said that he should not give up, to which she received an offer to join Eric and create a group with him. Sonia immediately frowned and fell silent. After seeing how the girl reacted to the proposal, Eric realized that she would not leave Roa anywhere and told her that it was just a joke. The man added that in fact it is really normal to give up such an activity after reaching the D rank, because many people do it. Even now, Eric no longer wanted to engage in adventures, because they had ceased to give him pleasure. The young man also added that he would rather continue to run the family business and sell tools than die in a dungeon. Roa replied that the store is also a good activity, because knowledge from past adventures can be useful there. Roa decided to ask how long the man had been in Lamberg City and if the young man knew the boss of the local dungeon. After that, Eric admitted that he had never been to the lower level, so he did not know anything. However, the only thing the man knew was that a sea crank monster could live on the lower floor of the dungeon. Roa thought that if he and Sonia were planning to fight him, and he would need magic capable of defeating such a monster with a single blow. Eric added that if the guys wanted to raise their ranks, they would have to take more tasks from the guild, and, as far as the young man could tell, they should not stand out too much. The man gave advice that strong guys are easy targets, so they should be careful and not mess with strange people. Roa replied that he was not afraid of anyone or anything, because he was used to difficulties. Eric laughed a little and noted that the young man looked like he was just getting into similar situations. The guests continued to talk in the tavern, and Eric asked the staff to bring them a few more glasses to drink. The next morning, Roa woke up with a light heart, because his life was gradually getting better. He spent the evening in good company, and woke up in the morning in a soft pastel. Rubbing his eyes, the guy at first did not understand why morning came so quickly, and how he even got to bed. Last night was a long one, because Roa ordered a lot of food and drinks to enjoy the well-deserved rest. A voice distracted the guy from his thoughts. Turning on his side, Roa saw that he was not sleeping alone in bed. His partner was lying next to him, who was still asleep. Slightly opening her eyes, the girl looked in front of her and saw a guy who was lying very close to her. Closing her eyes, Sonia thought that she was dreaming everything, so she just said that she liked this dream and fell asleep again. The guy couldn't find a place for himself and was shocked that he was in the same bed with the girl. After a moment, Roa quickly got out of bed and walked away from her. Deciding to make sure of something, the young man quickly lifted and lowered the blanket. Sonia did not wake up from this, so Roa calmly exhaled. The guy wanted to confirm that they were both wearing clothes and that there was nothing between them. However, due to the fact that the young man was slapping himself on the body, the girl still woke up. Sonia was confused and surprised that she was not in her room. Roa tried to calm his partner down by telling her that he most likely just carried her here, and he fell down and fell asleep next to her. She still couldn't calm down and realized that she had been sleeping next to Roa all this time, and that she had seen him in a dream was not a dream at all. The guy asked the girl not to worry, because nothing terrible happened. They were both just tired and just sleeping next to each other. Moniette didn't want to listen to anything else and ran out of the room, breaking the front door. Roa was a little confused by this reaction. The young man thought that he was behaving like a gentleman, but for some reason the girl abruptly ran away. Roa couldn't figure out what the women wanted. After some time, the couple went to the guild. They were met again by a girl who accepted magic stones from them. The girl with glasses said that Eric had recently been to the guild and talked about what happened to him. The man told that the couple saved him with the help of strong magic. The girl saw that Sonia and Roa were a little nervous, so she asked them if they both slept normally last night. After that, the girl from the guild asked the couple to give her their cards so that she could raise their rank to both of them by assigning D. Roa was very pleased with what he heard, and even at first did not immediately believe in other people's words. The girl with glasses assured that the couple deserved to be promoted by bringing a lot of magic stones and destroying a lot of monsters. After taking the new card from the guild, Roa was glad that it was now silver, and proved that he had not tried in vain all this time. Previously, Roa held the rank of novice, and now, with the increase in rank, his title has become Wizard. The girl with glasses advised the guy to go to the errand board and look at the tasks from the guild. There were already a lot of people at the board since the guild had only recently updated the lists, so there might have been some interesting tasks for the couple. Sonia went to the blackboard and pointed out to Roa one of the tasks in which it was necessary to destroy the lair of monsters. Roa looked at the stand and noticed that 150,000 could be received for completing this assignment. However, Sonia also noticed that the place they needed to go to was a dungeon of rank D and level 6. He and Roa had never been to places like this before. However, the guy assured that he and the girl will succeed, and they will cope with everything, because he was able to accumulate enough levels in their recent journey. Taking a piece of paper with a task, the couple was stopped by a group of people. One of them, who was in charge, shouted at Roa to leave this task, because they already wanted to take it for themselves. The guy with the dark hair said that the couple would not be able to complete this assignment, even despite the rumors about them. Sonia was a little scared, so she couldn't answer anything, and Roa didn't expect such arrogance from some strangers. Roa decided to ask what kind of rumors are we talking about, and why the rude guy wants to take away the task that he and Sonia have already taken. The stranger was a little surprised that they didn't know the rumors about themselves. The head of the group said that, according to rumors, there is a group in which there is a person in the role of protection who is unable to attack and a magician who kills everyone with one blow. Sonia, hearing how strangers described her, was upset and slightly panicked, because it sounded a little insulting. Roa did not tolerate this attitude and said that they would still take the task they found first, because the monster lair was exactly what they needed. The head of the group did not want to give up, so he tried to take away the task by force. But he did not have time to snatch the paper, as Roa was too nimble. Deciding that it was useless to just try to take the sheet away, the guy with the dark hair decided to just make a fight and take it for himself. However, as soon as the young man swung, his companions hurried to stop him. One covered his mouth and asked him to calm down, and the girl hurried to apologize for the behavior of their leader. Jake, being the leader of the group, was too self-confident and did not want to give in to anyone. Roa and Sonia did not wait for an apology from Jake and decided that they should go on a mission as soon as possible. Upon entering the 5th level D dungeon, the pair were immediately met by enemies who tried to attack them over and over again. However, the enemies did not have a chance, because Roa used his new range skill, the Lightning of the Amavir, to keep anyone away from him. All attacks hit the target accurately. The pair moved swiftly to the 6th level. However, they were not alone in this dungeon. It turned out that a group they had previously met in a guild was watching them nearby. Jake didn't want to give up so easily, so he wanted to wait for the moment when one of the two would screw up. The blonde-haired youth was not happy that the leader of his group was forcing them to chase people. The guy with the dark hair was talking about how they should watch carefully until Roa makes a mistake and loses. The girl who was on the team was not sure about this plan. The girl saw how the couple copes with every difficulty perfectly. The rumors turned out to be true because Roa really defeated everyone with a single blow. The girl also noted that the magic that the young man used was one that only the best adventurers of rank C use. Finishing the analysis of the young man, the girl noted that the guy was a much better magician than she was, which is why she immediately liked him. Jake was tired of listening to such eulogies. The leader of the group didn't care what some guy could do because his group was number one in Lamberg. They can't be compared with some newcomers. Jake looked at his two partners and told them that they were much better than this couple. The girl laughed in confusion, and the young man with blonde hair noticed that their leader was quite strange today. After clearing the 5th level, Sonia and Roa descended to the 6th level, which met them with a dark and long corridor. When the young man saw the passage, he pointed it out to his partner, and the girl noticed that the guy had already reached the 152nd level. Sonia was confident that Roa would be able to raise her level right away, so it was better to use it for something useful. The guy replied that he had just such a plan. After opening the list of skills and items that can be purchased, Roa began to look for one that he might need. The young man realized that he needed 3 things. The first thing was the new purple flash skill. It cost 150 levels, had a base attack of 12,000, required only 2 seconds to use, but a full 20 seconds to roll back. The next thing was the mithril sword item. This weapon added 400 units to the attack power, and also cost 150 levels. The third thing was the physical enhancement ability, which helped increase the ability to attack the enemy, but its cost was as much as 200 levels. Having decided that it was more logical to first purchase a mithril sword, which added attack power, since 500 base attack units were required to use the purple flash skill. After spending 150 levels, Roa began to create a sword for himself that would multiply his strength several times. Sonia couldn't take her eyes off such a sight, saying that the creation of the sword was very fascinating. However, the young man again had only the 2nd level, and the girl could not get used to the fact that the guy treats it so calmly. Roa said he needed experience to level up back up. To score more points, Sonia and Roa disbanded their small group. All that remained was to find the monsters and defeat them. When Roa got closer to the monster's lair, he said that he was ready to fight them, so they shouldn't waste a minute and move on. Once inside, huge monsters appeared in front of the couple, which looked terrifying and seemed ready to attack at any moment. Looking around, a variety of monsters appeared in front of people. From dinosaurs to giant insects, there were countless of them. Sonia was a little scared, which even made her speechless, only swallowing the saliva that had accumulated in her mouth. The guy also noted that they were faced with a terrible sight. The girl advised the guy to try to get rid of them with one big shot. Roa already understood that, given the expenditure of strength to use skills and time, if you miss a good moment, you just might not have time to make an attack. The guy understood all this perfectly well. Sonia said that when it gets too dangerous, she will shield her partner and protect him as much as she can bear. He said that if it got too dangerous, the girl would have to leave immediately. Drawing attention to himself, the young man shouted to the monsters to notice him and go to meet him. The monsters did not keep themselves waiting and immediately headed towards the guy to deal with him. The group that was watching the couple from afar saw that something strange was happening. Jake, looking at the guy, realized that he was deliberately drawing their attention to himself. However, the leader of the group understood that it was very dangerous, and even doubted whether Roa would be able to cope with so many monsters alone. Sonia did not doubt her partner, but she was also worried about him, because she knew that he was only on the 2nd level now, which made him more vulnerable. Roa, on the other hand, was calm and focused on using a skill that would destroy enemies. It was impossible to make a mistake, since the slightest delay would cost the guy his life. Sonia looked at everything from the outside and realized that at the moment she could not help her partner in any way, who had only 3 seconds left to make an attack. It seemed that even the group that was watching him was not gloating, but worried about what would happen to Roa in such a dangerous duel. When there was 1 second left, the monsters had already approached so close that it seemed a defeat was inevitable. At the same moment, the guy abruptly opened his eyes and looked at the approaching monsters. However, everything happened just in time, because the young man managed to use a skill that had already helped him win the battle more than once. The thunderbolt was so strong that it was able to cover the entire bunch of monsters that were in the lair with its discharge, hitting everyone with such power that left no chance of resistance. The monsters were destroyed one by one. Sonia was delighted with what she saw in front of her eyes. She did not doubt for a minute the success of her partner's actions. Even Jake was shocked by what he saw with his own eyes. He clearly did not expect that the rumors he had heard in the guild were true. Looking at the fact that Roa was completely safe and sound, Jake could not understand where the man got such strength, because what he did was almost impossible. Roa looked at his hands, which a few minutes ago were able to produce such powerful magic that destroyed a huge number of monsters. His whole body was shaking with a surge of strength after the victory. Clenching his hands into fists, the guy straightened up and closed his eyes with joy, not hiding his smile. His level was rapidly increasing, breaking the 140 mark again. After some time, the level did not stop growing, and Roa even began to count up to what point he would continue to do so. Having passed the 169 mark, the young man felt that growth would soon end. After reaching the 170th level, the experience stopped increasing and finally stopped. Roa was beside himself with pride and joy. Sonia was also very happy for her partner, because he was able to add as many as 168 levels at a time, destroying a whole bunch of monsters with one blow. It was amazing. The girl admired the guy. Pointing behind her, Roa's partner showed him how many monsters had died at his hands, which meant that they would be able to get a lot of materials with him. Roa, seeing the scale of his actions, realized that they would not have enough time to inspect so many monsters, so he suggested that they just take only rare materials and return home. Sonia agreed, because they really had a lot to choose from. While the couple was gathering resources, the group following them could not find the right words to describe the sight they had just seen. The young man with white hair was very surprised how the guy on the second level could so easily cope with so many monsters, destroying the entire lair so quickly. It seemed that there was not a single person in all of Lamberg who was Roa's equal. The guy turned to the leader of his group and said that they would not be able to match this pair. The young man knew that Jake was very upset, but he had to admit the obvious. However, the leader of the group gritted his teeth and replied that he would not be able to recognize the superiority of some guy over him. Jake did not want to admit superiority so much that he even planned to challenge the couple to a duel. The young man with white hair could not believe what he had heard. The guy tried to dissuade Jake from this stupid idea because their power is very dangerous, since they were able to defeat so many monsters at one time. However, the leader of the group resisted and said that they knew the dungeon much better than Sonia and Roa, and after Jake's band wins, they'll be the best in town again. The leader of the group thought that his plan was great, and he himself was very smart. The young man with blonde hair couldn't stand it, and said that Jake's idea was just terrible. After Jake asked him to repeat what his partner had said, the blonde young man doubted himself a little, but still said that the leader did not know what he was talking about. However, after thinking a little, the young man still thought that Jake could hardly be persuaded, so there was no point in stopping there. The blonde-haired man suggested that Jake come up with the rules for the duel himself, so that they would not need trouble and lose their reputation among the guild members. Jake agreed with this suggestion and asked Dory what she thought about it. The partner, whose name was Dory, did not listen at all to what the guys were discussing. She was busy looking at Roa, who liked him very much. Looking in the same direction as Dory, the guys noticed that he and Sonia had already collected all the materials they needed and were about to leave the dungeon. They decided to pick up the materials that Sonia and Roa had left. Back at the guild, everyone present couldn't believe that an entire monster lair had been cleared by just a couple of people. Everyone also found out that Sonia and Roa were looking for someone to join their group. Turning around, Sonia told her partner that she felt other people's eyes on her. The guy was absolutely calm and replied that everyone was just telling each other rumors about the two of them. The young man did not want his partner to worry about something like this, so he decided to divert her attention to something else. Looking at the guy, Sonia saw that he was holding a whole bag of money in his hands. They were paid 120,000 for magic stones and materials, as well as 150,000 for completing the task. In total, they already had more than 800,000. Sonia was glad that they didn't need money. Roa also felt a little unusual, but there was nothing wrong with that, because he had been poor for a long time. However, the young man did not know at all what to do with such a sum. After a little thought, the guy came up with some idea where to spend the accumulated funds, because after all, he had something that he always wanted to try. It turned out that the guy wanted to spend money on a good dish, namely a large meat steak. The girl smiled and was surprised at how delicious the piece of meat in front of her looked. After Sonia said that she hadn't eaten anything like this for quite a while, Roa thought a little and just stared in front of him, saying nothing. Seeing how his partner was thinking, Sonia called out to him and asked what happened to him. The girl thought that Roa was ready to cry with happiness, as always. However, the young man only smiled and replied that he was not going to shed tears, so Sonia did not need to laugh. Roa added that now the taste of meat will not make him cry, because he is not the same person that he was before. The guy was sure that he could overcome himself. Sonia, noticing how the young man picked up a fork and a knife, decided to ask a question that had been bothering her lately. The girl blushed a little, but asked her partner if he could hold the cutlery properly at all. Roa was immediately embarrassed and upset, running back to the wall because he didn't even have the opportunity to use cutlery ever. All his life, the young man ate grass and beetles with his own hands. The girl felt awkward because of her question. Sonia assured the guy that everything was fine because she didn't want to laugh at him. The girl decided to show Roa an example and asked him to just repeat after her. Carefully cutting a piece of meat, the girl pierced it with a fork and brought it closer to the young man so that he ate it. Seeing a piece of steak in front of him, the guy reached for a fork through tears and took what his partner cut off for him. Unable to restrain himself, Roa began to cry again from how delicious the feeling of meat in his mouth was to him. And Sonia said that now she recognizes the former young man. Roa still did not repeat after his partner, so he just pierced a piece of meat with a knife and ate it the way it was convenient for him. Sonia told the young man that he was very funny when he behaved like that. Jake, who came up to the couple, interrupted the idyll of the moment and asked the young man if he and his partner had succeeded in defeating everyone in the D-ranked dungeon. Roa, seeing the annoying guy, jumped up from his seat and asked what the leader of the group wanted from them. Jake replied that he just wanted to show who the best adventurer in the city was. The guy with the dark hair pointed a finger at Roa and said he was challenging him and his partner to a duel in 3 days. Sonia was a little taken aback and did not know what to say, and the young man did not understand what Jake meant if he offered them something like that. The young man replied that he did not like such a proposal at all, but a girl from Jake's group intervened in the dialogue. She said that her leader doesn't express himself accurately a bit, so she wants to explain everything on her own. Dory took Roa's hand and tried to convey to him that they were not trying to pick a fight with him and his partner. The girl said that this duel is just a friendly competition, which is to defeat the dungeon boss at speed. Rewards were also provided for the victory. Dory added that if Roa and Sonia can win, they will receive a rank upgrade from D to C, because the group has already agreed on this prize for them with the guild. The girl assured them that they would all have a lot of fun, and Jake only asked his partner why Dory wasn't wearing her usual costume. The blonde guy also noted that their partner never smiled at them. Sonia was a little unhappy with the attention Dory was paying to Roa, so she said they should accept their rival's challenge. The young man replied that no matter what duel, they were still going to defeat the dungeon boss. Therefore, deciding that nothing would change anyway, Roa clenched his hand into a fist, leaned forward, and confidently exclaimed that they were accepting the challenge. While visiting the dungeon, Sonia and Roa began to prepare. Remembering Eric's words, the young man remembered that the boss of the dungeon they were in corresponded to rank C, so he and Sonia had to use all their abilities to fight him. After defeating the next monsters, the pair raised the joint level by another 20. Sony's steel wall and homing skills can also have new skills after they reach a certain level, which was the common goal. The small team moved gradually, increasing the characteristics of each. After some time, the level of Sony and Roa reached 200. Stats grew and skills increased in levels. After reaching such a high level, Roa was glad that his amount of health gave him a sense of security. Sonia knew this because her own index was twice as high. Now Roa was absolutely confident in himself, as well as Sonia. The couple had no doubt that they would be able to defeat the dungeon boss, thereby winning a bet from another group of adventurers. Having gathered on the appointed day, Jake seemed to be confident in his abilities too, because he assured the guys that today was the last day of their stay in the city of Lamberg. The girl from the guild announced that the day has come when a group of newcomers, overgrown with rumors and proud Jake and his team of self-proclaimed leaders of the city of Lamberg, will join the fight against each other. The girl with glasses was a representative of the guild and the future judge of the competition. Roa was surprised at how famous their duel had become, but Jake was also unaware of what the guild had turned their duel into. The criterion for victory was the time that the groups would spend defeating the dungeon boss and moving to the guild using the transfer stone. Time will be measured by a magic tool. After the teams bring the magic stone as proof that the dungeon boss has been defeated, the evaluator will check it to rule out cheating. The presenter decided to ask which team would go first, and Jake immediately replied that he and his group would go first. The team leader assured them that they would be back in just a second, so Roa should not run away. But the young man was not going to do anything like that. Dory, who came up to Roa, also decided to tell him something before going into a duel against the boss. The girl blushed slightly and smiled, saying that she would look forward to working with the young man together. Dory also added that her leader's words were very harsh, but she did not share his negative attitude towards Roa at all. Jake, hearing his partner's words, hurried her into the dungeon. Time passed, and after a full hour and a half, Jake's team still hadn't returned. People were waiting, but no one knew when they would arrive back. Sonia was thinking about a completely different topic and decided to ask Roa why men like girls with big shapes so much. The girl did not hide it, so she asked if the guy himself liked something like that. To which he replied that everything depends on the person himself and his preferences. Roa smiled and also added that he personally prefers someone who looks like a dream because it's always fun and interesting to fight with her. The girl was very pleased with this answer, so Roa's partner's cheeks turned a little red, but she did not have time to say anything. Looking back, Roa noticed that people nearby began to shout that Jake and his team had already returned from the dungeon. Jake walked with a confident gait next to his teammates until someone asked how long the group had been inside. The presenter replied that 1 hour and 32 minutes had passed. The average time to complete the dungeon was about 2.5 hours, so the team coped quickly enough. The guild members began to approach Jake and congratulate him for such a good result, but the group leader simply replied that there was nothing unusual about it. Passing by the couple, Jake grinned and said that it would be very difficult to break the record he had set. Sonia thought about it, because an hour and a half was really a good indicator. Roa was also a little tense, because yesterday it took them about an hour to get to the lower floor. However, the difficulties did not scare the small team. Sonia and Roa were confident that they could defeat the dungeon boss faster than Jake's team. Going inside, a lizard fighter appeared in the path of the group, which had 150th level. The couple promptly began to cope with its destruction. After Sonia distracted the monsters, Roa attacked them. After the young man's order to duck, the girl obeyed. The monster was defeated by the Thunderbolt skill. Sonia stressed that they were coping at a fairly good pace. Roa also understood that they were avoiding the enemy as much as possible to save time. The young man praised their duet and said that he and Sonia began to cope better and better, which was confirmed by the girl herself. Roa's partner also noted that they haven't spent much time yet, so their victory will be crushing. The guy was also very enthusiastic, but he understood that they could not lose their vigilance because they still had to fight the boss of this dungeon. Sonia agreed and smiled at Roa, because she also understood all this and just wanted to show all the envious people how cool they are. While the couple were discussing their perfect victory, another monster was standing not far from them. However, he did not want to attack them. When Sonia saw that the monster was so close, she shouted to Roa to catch him as soon as possible. After which, the lizard burst into tears, because besides the fact that they would fight with him, a girl had also abandoned him yesterday. Having finally descended to the very last 6th level, the couple saw the entrance, behind which the dungeon boss would be waiting for them. Roa asked if the girl was ready to go there with him, because the boss would most likely be of C rank, to which Sonia replied that the young man need not worry, because they would never lose. The guy was inspired and added that everything would be fine with them for sure, so they shouldn't waste time and go into battle as soon as possible. Entering the room where the main boss of the dungeon was located, a Kelpie appeared in front of the couple, looking like a large unicorn. The recommended level for victory was 400th, and the monster's rank, as Eric had said, was indeed C. Upon seeing the uninvited guests, the monster immediately rushed to attack, which was not difficult for him. Sonia immediately put a shield in front of her and used one of her skills, called Steel Wall. The monster was distracted by the girl and tried to break through the protection she had put up against him. Next, Sonia used her second skill, Homing, which helped to concentrate all the power of the monster on the shield. Hitting the girl's armor, the monster failed to defeat her. Roa's partner stood firm and protected the guy from other people's attacks. The young man praised the girl, thinking to himself that, even despite such a high recommended level, Sonia could fight back, yielding almost twice. The guy decided to use a spell that takes only 2 seconds. It had a small radius, but Roa was sure that it should be enough. Activating one of his skills, the young man, holding his sword tightly, directed his spell at the monster. The monster saw that the young man's attack would soon fall on him, but did not have time to do anything, so the blow hit exactly on target. The purple flash skill was new, but very powerful, which is why Roa decided to test its effectiveness on the dungeon boss. The monster that received a blow of such force was defeated, which meant the victory of the pair over the dungeon boss. After the monster fell, Roa's stats began to grow again. The young man's level rose to 270, and he also received the title of Conqueror of the Landbird Dungeon. Due to receiving a special rank, the strength required to use skills has increased by 300 units. Roa did not expect this, but he was very pleased with such a pleasant bonus. Sonia was also delighted with how well they managed to defeat the Sea Crank Kelpies. Roa noted that the base damage of the purple flash is about 12,000, and with a favorable attribute it can rise to 24. The power of the new skill was indeed devastating. The guy also added that they should not forget that they need to pick up the magic stone, and after that, they will only have to go outside the barrier and use the transfer stone to return outside. However, Sonia blushed a little and wondered if they could win for sure, because there was something incomprehensible. Turning around, the girl called the guy, distracting him from collecting materials, and said that something strange was happening. Looking at the exit, Roa's partner noticed that there was still a barrier on it that should have disappeared. Roa also saw that the barrier was in place and couldn't figure out why it didn't hit anywhere if they had just defeated the dungeon boss. After a few seconds, Sonia looked up and saw what was preventing the barrier from opening. Roa also looked up and saw something that scared his partner a little. There was another boss on the ceiling. It turned out that there was another additional monster in the dungeon, but the ghost of Pirate William Kidd was on a completely different level. The 1000th level was recommended for his victory, and the boss's rank was B. Roa couldn't believe his eyes. He had never seen such monsters before. Sonia was also shocked, because the required level was too much higher than the one they had together with her partner. However, there was absolutely no time to understand what was happening. The ghost of the Pirate Williams Kidd was already rapidly attacking opponents. Roa was confused and did not know what to do, as the monster was aiming directly at him, not giving him time to use skills. Sonia hurried to help her partner and tried to use her homing skill to distract the opponent. However, the monster did not react at all to the girl, as if it did not notice her at all. The ghost of the Pirate William Kidd seemed to be aimed only at fighting the young man. Sonia shouted to her partner that her skill had completely stopped working, so she didn't understand how Roa could help. The guy understood that the monster was purposefully attacking him, but he couldn't figure out why. The ghost of the Pirate William Kidd struck with a sword, trying to hurt the young man. Roa took a defensive stance and tried to repel other people's attacks with his sword, not letting himself be injured, while Sonia screamed and did not know what to do. Outside, the presenter looked at the time and said that it had been 45 minutes since Sonia and Roa entered the dungeon. The girl with glasses also noted that so far there were no signs that they should return soon. Jake gloated and talked about how they might have been stuck at the very beginning. Dory, defending the couple, was angry and said that they would definitely defeat them by a wide margin. The leader of the group became annoyed and asked his partner whose side she was on at all, after which he received the answer that the girl was rooting for the cool side. Jake was sure that they were the cool ones. The presenter urged not to quarrel. While everyone was waiting for Sonia and Roa to return, the girl with glasses offered to listen to her scary stories about dungeons so that it would not be boring to wait for a couple. The presenter said that in addition to the dungeon bosses themselves, additional bosses can also live in them. When special conditions are met, a special monster appears, whose power is beyond the limit. And if such a monster attacks a person, then he can prepare for death. Jake was very scared of such a story and trembled. However, the presenter assured that there had been no reports of such additional bosses appearing in the dungeon yet, so there was no need to worry. Jake was already scared and asked not to scare him like that anymore. Meanwhile, an intense struggle was going on in the dungeon between the young man and the ghost of the Pirate William Kidd. Apparently, the couple somehow activated special conditions, which is why an additional boss appeared. The monster did not want to retreat and struck harder and harder at the guy, who was trying very hard to fend off the sword. It was hard for the young man. He usually did not fight in close combat, especially with swords. He just used his skills and magic, which helped him win. The additional boss was serious, so Roa was gradually running out of strength to fight back. Roa understood that there was a B-rank opponent in front of him, so even if the monster hit him just once, it would be unbearably painful for him. The young man had already tried to use the stone they were given to move, but for some reason it didn't work, so the only way out was to fight. However, Roa also understood that his level was only 270s, compared to what level was recommended for defeating the ghost of Pirate William Kidd. Sonia shouted advice that Roa needed to keep his distance so that the monster would not get too close to the young man. After the guy increases the distance, he will be able to use his best skill, which helped him defeat all the previous monsters. The young man listened to the advice of his partner and decided to run in the other direction in order to get as far away from the additional boss as possible. After running away, Roa used the Lightning Thunderer skill, launching a charge directly towards the ghost of Pirate William Kidd. But something happened that no one expected. The additional boss easily dodged the attack, which is why the lightning did not hit him at all. Sonia, seeing what happened, thought that Roa had missed and did not understand why the young man could not make an attack normally. However, Roa was completely taken aback, because this simply could not happen. The speed of lightning, when using the skill, was very high, which made it very difficult to miss. The next moment, the ghost of Pirate William Kidd abruptly approached Roa and attacked him, hitting the guy in the stomach. The young man clearly did not expect this, so he did not even have time to react. Flying off to the other side, the guy flew into the wall and screamed loudly. When Sonia saw what happened, she also screamed, because she could not do anything to help her partner, who was again in danger. The additional monster did not want to stop at one blow and was already rushing towards the guy again to attack him. Running up to the exhausted young man, the girl again tried to apply one of her skills, putting her shield in front of her. After the ghost of Pirate William Kidd hit the shield, Sonia saw that he had changed the target from the guy to her. Running away from the additional boss, the girl shouted to her partner that she could buy him some time so that he would do something for his recovery. Roa couldn't figure out what his partner meant because he didn't have any wound healing skills. Roa knew that he didn't have much health left, so if he got another hit, it would be his last. Looking for something suitable, Roa thought that he knew that one day he would have to get into a difficult situation, but he did not expect it to be so difficult. Seeing Sonia defending herself from an additional boss, the young man thought that perhaps this test was a kind of test. If you do not pass it, then the guy will never be able to master all the magic. Remembering Eric's words, Roa thought that many adventurers left after they reached rank D. But the guy was clearly not one of those people who would have enough rank D. The young man tuned in again and decided that he could not give up just like that, even if he was unlucky once. It did not mean that everything was lost. Roa reflected that there could only be two reasons why he couldn't hit the target with his skill. First, the distance was too great, and secondly, the fact that the young man acted rashly. However, even if Roa attacks an additional boss from his blind spot, the monster will immediately begin the counterattack. This could not be allowed, because the young man had only one blow left, and he could die. Taking a stronger sword, the guy realized that there was no time to wait, so the only thing left was to parry the attacks. Deciding to continue using the sword, Roa thought about the fact that he would have to fight in close combat. Fortunately, Roa knew that he had magic that would be perfect for such an occasion. Strengthening the body is an ability that the young man has not yet acquired, but is long noticed on the list. At first, Roa regained all his strength in order to use the skills with the help of a potion that he had in his item box. After using the potion, the young man spent 200 levels in order to acquire the new ability, Body Strengthening. After creating a seal on the floor, the guy used his sword to activate the ability. The maximum gain was 3 times the size. After using the ability, the guy's attack power and defense increased 3 times, which gave hope that he would be able to fight. However, magic consumes 10 units of power for a skill for every second of strengthening. If the gain factor is the same, then the power consumption for skills increases threefold. Simply put, Roa only had 34 seconds to attack. The guy tried to calm down and concentrate because he was not fighting alone. He had a partner who helped him well. If the young man runs out of the effect of the ability, then he is sure that Sonia will be able to help him with recovery. Running out of a small hiding place, Roa asked Sonia to cover him, because he would attack. The girl wondered why the young man chose close combat instead of attacking from afar. Running up to the ghost of Pirate William Kidd, Roa said that it was time for the second round, when the 70th level would fight against the 1000th. Sonia was standing behind two figures who were about to start a battle with each other. The additional boss rose high up to the ceiling and seemed to be waiting for the moment to attack. Roa was ready for battle and held the sword with both hands, not looking away from who he was going to fight for the second time. The ghost of Pirate William Kidd looked at the young man and also raised his sword, aiming it towards the guy. A moment later, the sound of metal deafened the audience and the blades came together in a duel. The additional boss did not spare the opponent, and Roa defended himself, repelling attacks. After the monster struck again, Roa decided not to act rashly, but parried the opponent's lunge and successfully returned from someone else's sword. The duel continued and neither side was going to retreat. The ghost of the Pirate William Kidd did not get tired and kept hitting the guy. Roa understood that it was not so easy to attack such an opponent, but still the second round was different from the first, because the monster could no longer throw the young man against the wall. Choosing the time, Roa looked at the enemy and thought that now would be the right moment to make an attack, because the defense took away strength without causing any damage. Choosing the right moment, Roa was able to parry the attack aimed at him, and immediately after that, he swung in order to strike with his sword himself. Due to the fact that the guy read everything correctly, the blow really hit the enemy directly, causing damage to him. The ghost of the Pirate William Kidd was wounded, but it was clearly not the opponent who would die from just one sword strike. Roa understood that he had struck a weak blow, but he managed to do at least that, which was already a great progress in an unequal fight. The young man was serious. He understood that now the fight was life and death, but he did not understand why he liked a feeling of adrenaline so much. After a slight hitch, the additional boss recovered and continued to attack the guy with renewed vigor. However, although the blows were accurate, they did not reach the target, because Roa skillfully parried all the attacks of the blade in his direction. The young man even began to like the fact that he was fighting such a strong opponent, but he understood that his strength to use the ability was running out, so he urgently needed to finish the fight. Due to the fact that Roa was not always attentive, the opponent managed to disappear from his field of vision and ended up behind the guy. The young man did not expect this and was slightly confused as he remembered that any delay would cost him his life. Having felt the ghost of the Pirate William Kidd approaching him from behind, Rolf thought that he would not have time to parry the attack. However, his faithful assistant came to the guy's aid, who put up a shield, covering the young man with herself. Sonia used her homing skill, which again helped to avoid irreparable consequences. The girl looked very calm. She was not afraid of a strong opponent. She only knew that her goal was to protect her partner, because only he could defeat the monster. Sonia held her shield firmly in front of her, and even after the opponent's blow, she was full of strength, because that was the only way she could contribute to their joint victory with Roa. The girl was glad that her skill worked and realized that homing worked only at close range, so last time she did not immediately manage to use it. Sonia told her partner that she probably wouldn't be able to hold off strong attacks for a long time, so the young man needed to be treated as soon as possible while there was such an opportunity. Roa thanked his partner for her assistance. However, the young man saw that the girl was actually already very tired. It was hard for her to take the attacks of such a strong monster over and over again. The guy understood that he could not stall for time, so he tried to heal faster by drinking 3 recovery potions at once. Having fully restored the strength index for the use of skills and abilities, Roa thought that the scheme for attacking was becoming clearer and clearer for him. After seeing how the ghost of Pirate William Kidd was distracted by Sonia, Roa decided to attack from behind. But the additional boss sensed the approaching danger and abruptly turned in the other direction. However, this was not the whole plan of the young man, because the first blow was likely to be the impetus to make the next attack immediately. After the monster had a weak spot, Roa immediately struck at the hand that was holding the sword. Left without one arm, the additional boss wanted to reach for his weapon with the other hand so as not to waste time. However, he was interrupted by Sonia, who, without even using her shield, grabbed the opponent to immobilize him. The girl screamed at her partner that he needed to use the spell immediately while she was holding the opponent. The ghost of the Pirate William Kidd was not neutralized for a long time, because after he felt that something was holding him from behind, he did not stand on ceremony. After dropping the girl, the additional boss freed himself from the grip and was determined to continue fighting with the young man. However, this is exactly what the guy needed. because he had enough time to prepare to use one of his skills. Apologizing to Sonia for the delay, Roa reminded, rather to himself, that it takes 2 seconds to activate. In the next instant, the additional boss was attacked by an attack that was amazing in its power. Roa used his Thunderbolt skill and hit the monster clearly, which this time could not dodge the blow. Seeing how the additional boss gradually began to be destroyed, Sonia was very glad that their battle was finally over. Roa was also happy, but there was confidence and strength in his gaze, which he demonstrated. Finally, the young man asked the strong monster how it felt to be defeated by someone who is only at the 70th level and rank D. Sonia says with tears in her eyes that she is very glad that everything turned out to be okay with the guy. At some point, the girl didn't even know what would happen next. In fact, Roa didn't even think that they would be able to defeat a rank monster. It seemed to him like a really absurd magic creation skill. The guy notes that Sonia's recklessness also saved his life. However, there is a caveat. The increase in the level of the pair does not stop. Countless signs appeared around them, indicating an increase in the level. Sonia says that before that, Mr. Roa had only a 70th level. The girl is sure that the bonus for defeating strong enemies will increase it many times. The guy is very interested to see how far this will go. This time, not only their magic, but also their swordsmanship were amazing. Sonia asks where the guy managed to learn this, and Roa explains that he mastered the basics at the beginning of his adventurous journey. Sonia was very surprised. She noted that if Roa continues to work on this, he will be able to become a swordmaster. However, the guy refused. He understands that if he chases everything at once, he will never fully master anything. While they were talking, tables with increasing levels were still appearing around them. Roa is much more interested in shooting magic than swinging a sword. That's why he wants to continue improving magic and achieve new heights in this field. The guy leaned his hand on the floor a little. He was very tired. Sonia suggested that he lie down for a while, because they still have time. The guy refused, explaining that the floor was too hard. And a place to sleep is very important to him after all. Human health and mood for the whole next day depend on it. But then Sonia puts Roa's head on her hips. She says that he can lie in her lap for only 5 minutes. The guy wonders if he's too heavy for that. The girl says that there's nothing complicated about this. As a result, Roa Foyle, a 19-year-old boy, raised his level to 470. Now he has received the title of captain of the ghost pirate William Kidd. Here, the woman announces that the magic timer has stopped. She's talking on the comm that those two guys are back. All the adventurers are wondering how long it took them. Immediately, Roa and Sonia appeared in front of everyone. They spent only 1 hour and 29 minutes on it. It turned out to be 3 minutes faster than Jake's group. Here Jake immediately became indignant, because he believes that this is impossible. He and his team know the structure of this dungeon much better than Roa and Sonia. After expressing his displeasure, Jake turned to Roa and asked him if they had really defeated the dungeon boss. He demanded to immediately show the magic stone as proof. Roa said the guy didn't have to say that. Here he shows a pair of stones that shone brightly in the palm of his hand. Roa called on a specialist to evaluate them. Jake was stunned that there were 2 stones. Roa gives both stones to the master so that he can look at them. The man explains that one of the stones is much larger than a Class C magic stone. The man paid close attention to one of the stones. He was surprised, and Jake, noticing this, immediately assumed that these stones were fakes after all. The man denies this and says that these stones are definitely real and have just been collected. A man holds a stone in his hand, which is of interest to the crowd. He explains that this stone belongs to Class B. Immediately, everyone was surprised. Jake glanced sideways at Roa and asked what that could mean, because there shouldn't be any monsters in that dungeon in rank. Jake couldn't even imagine what these guys had done. The guy began to explain that it turned out to be an additional boss, the ghost of the pirate William Kidd. He and Sonia defeated him and received the appropriate reward. At these words, all the guys began to discuss the conditions among themselves, because they had never heard of an additional boss. Then the woman immediately rushed to Roa. She thinks that the guy is joking. After all, she was just telling everyone that an additional boss appears only if a number of strict conditions are met. Sonia asked what conditions should be met. Despite the fact that the task is practically impossible, it will be useful to know the conditions for its completion. The woman explains that there should be 2 or fewer members in the group. Then the time to get to the lowest level is less than 1 hour and less than 30 seconds to defeat the dungeon boss. However, there should be another condition that involves less than 3 attacks on the dungeon boss. However, this is far from the end of all conditions. The woman clarified that an additional boss appears only to those who comply with all these conditions. Individually, the conditions are not so difficult, but combining them in one battle with one opponent is worth a lot of effort. Sonia smiles and says that Mr. Roa did exactly that. The guy asked not to rewrite all the merits for him. All those interested were surprised. They realized that Roa and Sonia had defeated the dungeon boss and even the extra boss in just an hour and a half. It was mind-boggling. The adventurers were able to fulfill all the conditions so easily. Then the girl rushed into the arms of the guy, but Sonia immediately prevented this and pushed Roa aside. It seems to be quite difficult for Sonia to protect Roa from all kinds of fans without showing her feelings so fiercely. The guy who was standing on the sidelines admitted it was a complete defeat. Roa knows that Jake is offended, but he thinks that Jake should recognize him. Bitter tears began to flow from Jake's eyes. He understands that it must have been terrible. He's very glad that the guys are all right. Here he talks furiously about how he cries like a man. Jake calmed down and walked over to the guys. In fact, he is sorry for underestimating them. He is ashamed that he laughed at the guys just because they are new. Roa asked him not to worry about it. He thought about how Jake didn't look like Carter at all, because the other one was very stubborn. The guys shook hands. Roa explained that he had a lot of fun today. Sonia and Roa began to walk through the crowds of people. There were questions from the side about whether the guys were hiring new members of the group, and requests for a story about today's battle with an additional boss. In all the details, suddenly, Jake stood up for the guys and ordered everyone out of the way at once, explaining that these guys were drinking with him today. Then the girl grabbed Roa's hand and asked the guy to go with them. However, Roa hoped that he would come home today and get some sleep. As a result, the guys went to rest. Roa thought it was still useful to gather like this from time to time. They had fun at the table. Many told their countless stories from traveling for drinks. It was late at night. Someone wants to come into Roa's room. However, the guy had been having a sweet dream for a long time. After all, the guy wanted to lie down to rest for so long after passing the test. As it turned out, it was Sonia. She opened the door a crack and entered the room. She covered the guy with a blanket and noticed that he had fallen asleep again with the door unlocked. After all, he drank with pleasure. The girl put her palm to the guy's forehead. She grinned at the fact that he was sleeping very soundly. Roa, he must be very tired. Sonia sat down next to the bed. She says that today she was very anxious because she was afraid because Roa might not be able to cope. She's very glad that the guy is all right. The girl approaches the guy's head. She realizes that it looks strange, but she wants to be able to say one thing at least while Roa is sleeping. Sonia sincerely admits that she loves Roa. She is insanely happy that she has met him. This meeting changed the girl's life. The guy stopped to rest. Roa was immensely happy that they were finally able to do this. He is glad that everything turned out exactly as Jake and others said. Roa and Sonia have indeed upgraded their adventurer rank to C, and Roa's guild card is cool gold. The guy is very happy that he can finally trace his career growth. Sonia laughs and notices that the guy is ruining a reputation of rank, with his habit of sleeping for a long time. Roa said that he slept until noon today, and Sonia did not wake him up. The girl explained this by saying that she had seen enough of his sleeping face. However, then she decided to add and said that, after all, she was tired herself. Sonia asks with interest what they will do today if they have already conquered the dungeon in the city. Roa starts eating. He informs me that he has a title, and in this city he has already done what he had to do. Then the guy offers the girl to buy a land dragon in order to get into the next dungeon. The heroine asks the young man again. Roa says that he once saw an adventurer riding a land dragon in foil. It is said to be a faster way of getting around than a horse. Roa was proud that he had almost saved up $1 million, so maybe now he could buy a dragon. But then Sonia decided to tell him one thing. As it turned out, buying a land dragon costs about 10 million euro. Roa thought about it again, and then he came to the conclusion that he and Sonia should not stop there. The girl noticed that the guy had returned to his former appearance. Here, a voice is heard from the side, which urges not to give up so quickly. The newcomer has great deals for adventurers. As it turned out, Eric came up to them. The guy waves to the guys and smiles. He says that there are a lot of rumors about Sonia and Roa. He also heard that the guys had defeated the extra boss. The guy noted that they were talking about this news in his store. Roa doesn't seem to remember that Eric has a store. After all, quite a lot of time has passed since their last meeting, and a lot could have already changed. The guy confirmed it. He reminds the guys that he quit his job as an adventurer and took up a tool shop. He was at the guild today to settle all the formalities. Eric is very glad that he was able to see the guys. In fact, Eric wants to thank them for the help the guys gave him. He said that he would be very glad if Sonia and Roa had a free minute to go to his store. The guys went outside. Roa noted that the place they came to looked more like a stable than a store. Eric confirmed it. He said that this is actually a stable. He didn't want to brag, but his family had a very successful business. In this regard, adventurers and travelers are in demand. On top of that, Eric's family keeps a lot of horses and land dragons. Eric goes to the door of one of the stalls and opens the door. There was a large land dragon outside the door. The guy said that he would give it to the guys for free. Roa and Sonia were stunned by this suggestion. They are not sure that Eric intends to make such a decision. Still, not everyone decides to give away an expensive pet so easily. The guy explained that the guys cannot be shy because they were hurting his life. Eric explained that this land dragon is one of his best. Eric stroked the dragon's cheek, and it closed its eyes in pleasure. The guy is confident that Roa will take care of him. In this case, he is ready to give up the pet. Eric said that when he wanted to become an adventurer, this dragon was always with him. However, if this dragon goes with the guys now, then Eric's dream will come true. Roa and Sonia were touched by the situation. Suddenly, the dragon took a step towards the guys. He immediately bent down and began to fawn over the guy. Who would have thought that such a big beast would show such gentle affection to a human? Roa noticed that the dragon was very friendly. He picked a bunch of grass and offered it to the dragon. Sonia noticed that Roa was already enjoying everything. Eric was sure that the dragon and the guy would get along. Eric informed the guy that he could name the dragon any way he wanted. Roa remembered that he had heard the sound of Yao before. Roa decided to name the dragon Yao Yorozu Inferno Justice Killer. Suddenly, he was told that this name was not very good. Sonia asked Roa if she could name the dragon something prettier. The girl thought that the name Caramel Strawberry Sauce with whipped chocolate would be better suited for him. Eric, watching this picture, realized that there was no better name for a dragon than Yao. Roa agreed with Eric. He greeted his new dragon. Eric asks you to come to his store so that the guys can get a discount on the necessary tools. Now they need to get ready to leave. The next day, the guys were ready to leave. Here, the girl from Jake's team, with tears in her eyes, did not want to believe that Roa was already leaving. She asks not to leave her here. The girl offered to exchange Roa for Jake, but Sonia immediately objected that she did not want him on the team. Roa said that he could speak for himself, but no one took his opinion into account. Roa couldn't figure out how so many people had gathered around them. Jake explained this by saying that this is because the guys are now celebrities. Jake understands everything and believes that they are not going to stand still. Jake sharply objects to Roa and Sonia and says that if his team sees them again, then victory will be his. He asks the guys to stay healthy and get sick less until then. Eric also came to see the guys off. He gave a parting message so that the guys would remain good friends of Yao. Roa thanked Eric for everything. Roa was already astride the dragon and helping Sonia climb on it. Suddenly, Yao he made a similar sound that resembled his name. Sonia and Roa were surprised. Soon they were on their way. Now the guys have already climbed on top of the land dragon and set off on their way. Roa really enjoyed the trip. He thought it was cool. He was once again convinced of the effectiveness of Yao in long journeys. The dragon began to take one step at a time and gradually accelerate. And the guys turned back and saw how the residents, adventurers, and Eric saw them off on a good journey. Sonia felt a little sad. She asks Roa if he feels the same way. The guy agrees. He says that they met a lot of friends here. However, he is confident that they will meet even more in the next city. Roa says that even in the foyer, he is very glad that he met Sonia. The girl did not believe the words she heard. This phrase touched her to the depths of her soul, and her cheeks turned red. The girl decided to bring the topic together and asked the guy if he had heard anything last night. The guy didn't understand the question. It seems that Roa slept soundly and did not hear anything at night. A kobold fighter appears nearby at the most unnecessary moment. Roa looks at the map. He understands that another city will not be so far away. Their next stop is the volcanic city of Almond. Two men broke into the old man's house. They attacked him with threats in order for him to vacate their house. They wanted to appropriate this house as a shelter, because they did not expect to find it in such a forest. The man tearfully begged the guys to go home. After all, if they take this house, the man will have no time to leave. However, the guys did not want to get into the old man's situation, and said that if he wanted to live, he needed to leave urgently. Suddenly, an outsider broke into the scuffle. Two brave men asked the guys to stop taking the house from the old man. Roa and Sonia glared at the guys. They were unhappy that the bandits had attacked a defenseless man. The bandits did not appreciate this act and asked who the guys were. Roa, instead of answering the question with a determined expression on his face, decided to say that they had caught a lot of crabs in the river and were going to roast them later for breakfast. The bandits were surprised that the guys were just showing their crabs. Sonia, equally determined, says that she has prepared a lot of curry for Mr. Roa for dinner. The bandits were furious. They considered the guy and the girl a strange group and decided to beat them up and rob them. Here, a bucket of crabs falls to the ground. Roa says that it is much more fun to achieve everything with your own work. The guy invokes magic and expects that now the villains will get their fun. The bandits did not expect to see this. Then they realized that the guy was not just a fisherman, he was a real magician. As soon as the bandits realized this, Roa used thunderbolt lightning and hit the guys with it. A couple of punches were enough for him to keep the old man safe. In the forest on the way to Almond, Roa and Sonia rescued an old man named Enrico. He told the guys that he was also an adventurer once and shared information. Almond is a city with a thriving mining industry. The dungeons are full of fire islands of rank C and above. Without a doubt, the guys will have to go through a lot of difficulties and difficulties. The dungeons are the remains of old mines. Many of the traps that were set to prevent the theft of minerals are still there. And on the lowest level, there is a giant wolf, engulfed in fire. It is said to be a volcanic hound in the rank. She looks terrifying, and flames are bursting from her mouth. The weather is clear outside. Roa believes that they cannot do without water-based magic. They will also need magic or items that can cope with traps. They definitely don't want to fall into any trap anymore. Sonia says that after the fight with the extra boss, she gained several new skills. The guy is interested in what kind of new education the girl received. Among them, there will definitely be those who will help in battle. A 17-year-old girl has acquired the skills of steel wall, homing, abnormal resistance, giant shield, protective spirit, and poison shield. There are quite a few skills, and all of them will be useful to the guys in further adventures. Roa realized that Sonia could acquire the following additional skill. A girl can also raise her skill level to 10, and the girl's poison shield will be a good source of damage if you upgrade it. The guy also thought about magic for a long time, which could be useful, and it seems that he has found a good option to start with. The guy discovered the magic of the water blade. Of course, the new type of attack will help you get the job done much faster. He acquired a water blade for 150 levels and immediately studied it. Now, thanks to Enrico's information, the guys will probably be well prepared before setting off. Then Roa wondered why this man lived so deep in the forest. Sonia was unhappy that the guy did not listen to the old man, because the girl found his story very touching and sensual. Sonia recalled that the old man fell in love with a nymph he met one day in the forest. Enrico does not know when he will see her, but he is constantly waiting for this. The girl thinks the story is very romantic. The guy looked up. He thought about the feeling of love. However, with a smile, he replied to the girl that, in his opinion, conquering the dungeon was definitely more fun. The girl knew that the guy would say that. Suddenly, Yao started up and became agitated. The guys looked away. As it turned out, they had already arrived near the city of Almond. Roofs of houses from the city could be seen from the high road. There was a lively atmosphere in the city. Residents walked among the cozy streets. The guild is still busy. As soon as the guys arrived in the city, they decided to put the land dragon in his stall so that he could rest. Sonia and Roa are walking down the street. The guy noticed that there was something unusual in this city. Most likely, it's because of the burning springs. The city of Almond is known precisely because of them. Roa reproaches himself for not daring to take 2 rooms. After all, it is because of the resort that all hotels are very expensive, and this time the guys had no choice but to live in 1 room, which cost $4,000. Sonia decided to support the guy and said that saving money is important. However, the guy was interested in why Sonia looked so happy. Roa still can't understand the girl's true feelings. Roa suggested that the girl collect everything and go to the dungeon in order to complete a few simple tasks. Still, it is important for an adventurer to keep fit and not forget about the usual tasks. They received a request for the skin of hellboars for a certain reward. The guy can't wait to see where rank C dungeon really is. Now Sonia and Roa have the opportunity to explore a new place for adventures. The dungeon has a huge number of windows, floors, and stairs that connect it all. The windows were made of glass, and from them came darkness and immense darkness. Roa shouts at Sonia to run to the left. A huge infernal boar of rank C is running after the girl. Pro realizes that the girl is taking a good position and shows real speed. Sonia flawlessly shows her skills and abilities in battle, not allowing anyone to doubt her skill. Roa raises his blade above his head and is about to apply a newly learned skill. He pulls the sword blade forward and applies the water blade skill. To perform this trick, you need to have a strong and hardy body. Streams of water, like blades, strike the infernal boar, bringing victory to the guys. Sonia was surprised. She finds it amazing because the new magic is very effective. As it turned out, learning new skills will help children develop faster. Roa thought about it. Sonia, noticing this, asked what happened. The guy said that he found it strange that the girl's level had not increased. It's natural. The recommended level for defeating them is about the same. Sonia clarified that the guy could always raise his level. Roa noted that he didn't feel anything. He had been fighting against higher-ranked monsters all his life. Sonia explained that there are stronger monsters on the lower levels, but you need to be extremely careful with traps. Traps can lead you astray so that it will simply be impossible to focus on the next orders. Sonia reminds Enrico's words that the guys do not know what danger awaits them. That is why they need to be always on the lookout and keep both eyes open so as not to fall into some trap or more dangerous monsters. As soon as the girl said this, she stepped on the tile, which immediately bent down. Suddenly, she was doused with a lot of hot steam and smoke. Then Roa got worried about the girl and asked if she was okay. As soon as the smoke cleared, Roa saw Sonia, whose outer clothes had fallen off. Sonia said that everything was fine because there was just smoke here. The smoke enveloped the whole room so that it was very difficult to see everything around. Roa was stunned by this view. He did not understand what it all meant. His girlfriend was sitting in front of him in only her underwear, and her equipment was partially ruined and lying around the girl. The girl is sitting on the floor and trying to figure out what has already happened. Stunned, Roa turned to Sonia. He wants the girl to calm down and listen to him. The guy explains that he is still in the smoke and sees only vaguely. Roa realizes that everything is only blurred so far, and he doesn't know what's going on. But the girl definitely has to do something about it. Sonia did not immediately understand what was the matter, and then suddenly, it seems to the girl that something like that flew past her. She thinks she should get ready, because something strange has just happened, and she can't concentrate on what is happening yet. She tilts her head down and sees all her clothes on the floor. She realizes that she is only sitting in her underwear right now. The girl's scream rang throughout the dungeon and seemed to reach the entire city. The girl screams at the guy and asks why her equipment has deteriorated. Roa says that he doesn't know himself. He didn't want the girl to feel awkward. But it seems that this was one of those traps where smoke causes equipment to fly apart. Sonia worries that she should have worn more beautiful lingerie. Out of embarrassment, Sonia asks not to look at her. She's going to put on her gear now. It would be good if some monster didn't appear at such a moment. But then a red turtle of level 440 appears from behind the girl. The huge eye of the turtle stared intently at the girl. She was immediately scared and was ready to get lost in a panic. Roa prevented this from happening and applied a triple multiplier and physical reinforcement. The guy swung and used the water blade with all his might on the monster. The turtle fell to the ground, no longer able to act in any way. The girl hugged her equipment to herself and looked at the guy with tears in her eyes. Roa turned away from her and asked the girl not to worry, because he would cover for her no matter what. Roa asked the girl to get dressed while there was still a chance. Today the guys have extracted 23 magic stones, which cost 6,000 apiece, and the skin of a thermal boa constrictor 5 pieces for the same price. If you sell it, you can get money. Sonia asked the guy if they have fulfilled the request for today. Roa agrees, and after these words, A caustic silence hung between the two of them. It was terribly awkward for both of them, because that moment with the trap still pops up in everyone's head. The girl says that Alminda's dungeon is just a terrible place. The guy replied that it wasn't that terrible, and it should just be forgotten. Suddenly, out of the blue, the guy apologizes to the girl. He explains to Sonia that he was putting it off for later to sort out the subject. He didn't know that such items even existed. As it turns out, Roa is talking about the trap detection ring in the dungeon. The guy realizes that he should have done it earlier. After all, detecting dangers is a very important thing that will help you avoid most of the troubles in battle. Roa has enough levels, and he's going to make rings for himself and Sonia. The girl is worried, because this will lower the level of Roa to 77. She respects the guy, but she wouldn't want him to spend his levels on someone other than himself. The guy explained that he could raise the level at any time. It's much better than losing all your gear. He hands the ring to the girl and says that they need to be tested tomorrow. The girl looks at the ring with admiration. It seems to her insanely beautiful. She squeezes the ring in her hand with a smile and sincerely thanks Mr. Roa. Most likely, Sonia will carefully wear and keep this ring. It was the middle of the night. The girl decided to take a bath and sank into hot water. The feeling was very pleasant. Sonia understands that it is quite expensive to have an open-air bath in the hotel. Actually, she told Roa that she would take a bath tomorrow morning, but she couldn't sleep, so she decided to come here anyway. She thinks that no one will come to her. The girl understands that a lot has happened today, but in her opinion, Roa was not particularly surprised by all this. This is not surprising, because he is already a relatively experienced adventurer. Suddenly, the girl saw a silhouette to the side. It looks like there was another person nearby, also with a beautiful body. As it turned out, Roa was sitting next to the girl. On the guy's head was a towel with a small toy in the shape of a duckling. Sonia started screaming about what Mr. Roa was doing in the bathroom. The guy tried to calm Sonia down. As a former noblewoman, the girl does not know that most public baths are mixed. Naturally, Sonia did not know about this. At this time, in order to overcome the long journey, one girl came to Enrico. The girl was not sure that an adventurer passing by could really hit a bandit with one blow. Enrico confirms this and says that he is alive today thanks to these adventurers. Enrico explains that it was a boy wizard and a girl with a big shield. They were much stronger than they looked. In fact, the girl came to pick up these bandits. But after she heard about a couple of adventurers, she wanted to personally look at them. If Sonia and Roa turn out to be good enough, in the girl's opinion, then perhaps she will even think about recruiting them into her horde. The guys arrived at the guild of the city of Almond. Roa is still awkwardly trying to pretend that nothing happened in the dungeon. With a smile, he suggests that the girl go back to work and go to the dungeon again, despite what happened last day. Roa saw that Sonia was focused on something. The girl believes that she is to blame for what happened yesterday in the dungeon. However, she is now concerned about another issue. Sonia asked Roa what kind of dish they had brought. The guy reported that they were eating boiled volcanic caterpillars. As it turned out, the menu in Almond is more modest than in other cities. Roa decided to order this dish because it is quite rare. The guy asked if the girl likes insects. Sonia was not happy with this news. The guy eats the dish by both cheeks. He really likes the taste of insects. Roa closed his eyes with pleasure and described the small caterpillars as very juicy and crispy, and the large ones as creamy with a deep taste. It gave him pleasure that he could eat this dish with such an appetite in such quantities. As it turned out, the caterpillars are also very well seasoned. The sweetness of the insects and the acidity of the sauce are so perfect, according to Roa, that it looks more like a solid treat. The guy reinforced all this by saying that caterpillars are very nutritious and healthy. He is sure that they bring unconditional benefits to the body. This is most likely what gives an incentive to enjoy such a dish. Sonia begins to believe the guy's words. Now she begins to think that this dish is really very tasty, and she should still try one thing. Time has passed. The guys have already gone to the dungeon. Roa apologizes to the girl and asks how she feels. Sonia felt bad after they decided to fortify themselves with a hearty and healthy dish of caterpillars. The girl can barely stand on her feet. She's not exactly sure that she was ready for this. It's probably too early for her. The girl still remembers the feeling when she put the caterpillar in her mouth. Then Sonia grabbed her mouth. She felt sick again when those feelings appeared in her memories. Roa began to worry a lot. He took advantage of the creation of the item and received a wooden bucket. The guy hurriedly ran up to the girl. Roa offered a bucket to Sonia so that she could pour everything into it if she wanted to. The girl screamed and said that she did not want the guy to look at her. That's when Roa realized that it's not easy to be in a band. Now the guy gets the title of gourmet. In fact, there is nothing unusual about this. The guys went to Almond's dungeon again, and this time they started exploring the 4th level. The guy skillfully handles the water blade, thereby bringing victory after victory to the group. The guy thanks Sonia. He's wondering if she's feeling better now. The girl agreed with a smile and said that it was thanks to the guy. Sonia is glad that the guy has finally regained his level. Roa realizes that now he has 310th level, and now he will be able to get new magic again. Sonia realizes that in this world there is still a chance to meet the lair and additional bosses. Perhaps it would be safer to have a wide-range water-based magic. The guy understands that it's time to acquire such magic. As a result, Roa acquired a ball of bubbling water for 300 levels. As it turned out, the consumption is quite a lot, but the spell casting time is short. He was very happy with the new purchase, because it would significantly increase his skills. The cast time is less than 7 seconds of Thunderbolt Lightning. In the end, MP will recover when the level rises, but for now you will have to be content with what you have. Roa wants to try out a new skill somewhere now, but suddenly a voice is heard from the side, shouting and asking for help. As it turned out, a girl was running towards the guys, screaming for help. A huge monster is running after the girl, who was going to hit her. However, the monster was not alone, and a whole bunch of monsters were running after the girl. This girl turned out to be Masha, and all the monsters were walking towards them. Roa doesn't know why Masha is here, but it turned out to be a good option. Roa applies physical reinforcement again. Then the guy comes up behind Sonia and grabs her by the shoulders. He apologizes in advance to the girl and picks her up in his arms. Sonia was embarrassed, but did not object. Roa picked her up in his arms and flew over the monsters himself. They landed an order of magnitude higher than the monsters. The guy carefully put the dormouse down and stood next to it. Roa invited Sonia to look at Masha. After all, the girl moves strangely. Sonia assumed that her friend had some skills for this. Roa wants to use her magic skill and understands that if Masha runs away, the magic is unlikely to hit her, but it will still be very risky. Finally got a chance to try the bubble water ball. Water balls appeared in huge numbers around the monsters. Masha only managed to catch a glimpse of a bunch of monsters. However, the monsters were gone, and only water splashes remained in their place. Masha was shocked that so many monsters had fallen in an instant. The girl wonders who saved her. As far as she knows, there is no one who could use such amazing magic. Then the girl fell down, and Roa came up to her with questions about whether she was all right. Masha immediately recognized the voice. She happily looked at the guy with eyes that sparkled with rays of hope for salvation. Now, the level has started to rise rapidly. The girl thought that she was mistaken after all, and did not recognize her friend. However, the guy asked her to wait until the levels stopped rising. The guys returned to the guild. Masha, with tears in her eyes from joy, said that she had not seen the guys for a long time. She definitely did not think that she would be saved twice, because this time, she was doomed. Masha rushed to hug the guy and began to sincerely thank him. Sonia objected to the girl by saying that a guy should not be hugged twice. Sonia, with a sweet smile, hands the handkerchief to the girl. She asks her to wipe her tears, because Masha spoils her sweet face with them. Masha, still with tears in her eyes, thanks the girl once again, calling her a lump of kindness. Sonia said that you can just call her by her first name. Sonia was pleased to be called that, but she prefers to be addressed by her first name. Roa is interested in why Masha found herself in the dungeon. After all, the girl is not an adventurer. She is an ordinary merchant. Masha explains that she had a small business failure, and she started working as a courier to earn some money. Masha explains that she carries materials that adventurers hunt for. Masha has a little bit of magic, so this is a good decision. As it turned out, Masha has a unique tax called throwaway luck, and today she used it to her advantage. But she's separated from the group and now finds herself here. Roa didn't understand how the girl could separate from the group if she was so fast. Masha said that it could be life-threatening. Suddenly, a voice was heard from the side shouting at the courier. As it turned out, adventurers followed her, who were unhappy with the girl's disappearance. Due to her sudden disappearance, they were unable to collect the materials. Masha said she was very sorry and asked for forgiveness. The men from the team continued to tell her off and say that she was lucky. After all, it was not a rare material. But they would not be able to pay the girl's fee either. Masha reminded that she and the team got lost, so it was quite natural. The guy asked not to worry because the cooperation will continue. A team member reminded that the reward depends on how hard the girl works. Roa, watching the whole scene, realized that something was bothering him. If Masha really ran, then there's nothing to blame her for. She's fast. She could keep up with them. Roa is sure that the adventurers could not ignore this. Then Roa turned around and went to the exit. He asked Sonia to treat Masha today. Roa himself explained his departure by saying that he had some things to do. He promised to come back and asked the girls to take a honeycomb from the caterpillar. Sonia would not like to remember this taste. It was a dark night. The adventurers burst into loud laughter. They thought it was funny that the girl didn't even notice anything and started apologizing. In fact, they left it there themselves. Now the guy is going to not break the price next time and use the girl on the cheap, since she feels guilty. It turns out that Roa has tracked down the adventurers. He knew the adventurers were up to something. According to Roa, deceiving people for their own purposes for the sake of profit is not very good, especially so meanly. The adventurers sneered at the guy, but after a couple of moments, they found out that it was an acquaintance of their courier. They did not feel respect and kindness for the guy. Roa said he was very sorry and said that he had magically recorded this conversation. Roa said that if the adventurers did not want everything to be known, they would have to pay the courier. Adventurers mocked the guy for his heroism. They wonder if the guy knows about what happens to those who get carried away with it. Suddenly, one of the adventurers came up behind the guy and made a hand grab. A 3-against-1 clash is planned. According to downloaded adventures, Roa has no chance. The adventurers decided to take away the record. They can't let it come out. Here, Roa applies physical reinforcement and immediately breaks out of the grip of one of the team. The guy climbs up and hits the enemy's face with all his might. After that, Roa went on the run. He managed to escape from the adventurers. Those guys started chasing him. As soon as one of the adventurers ran around the corner, a stone flew into his face. He clearly hadn't expected such an attack from around the corner. It was so unpleasant that it seemed as if he would immediately lose consciousness. The remaining adventurer was amazed by this. Roa does not think that it is possible to play 3 against 1. He believes that it is necessary to divide the pile and make it so that we can go 1-on-1. The adventurer didn't appreciate it. He thinks the guy has hit a dead end, and the adventurer comes to the conclusion that it will not be possible to use magic in a narrow alley. The adventurers thought Roa was very capable, since he didn't notice it. The guy offered to try anyway. He noticed that it was more difficult to swing a sword in the narrow alley, so he had already lost looking for their adventures. Roa waved his hand and delivered a victorious strike of justice in the strongest fire strike. The adventurer flew far away from the guy. The adventurer realized that this simply could not be. Roa hoped that the adventurers understood everything and would not forget to apologize to Masha later. The adventurer agreed, just to avoid feeling those blows again. Roa leaves. Suddenly, an image appears in front of him. There is a girl in front of the guy. She seems to be shining all over. She was clearly amazed by the whole picture. She finds these words and the movement of the Roa simply amazing. Most likely, she considered his act valiant and worthy of respect. The guy still did not understand who this girl was, and then she put her hand forward, right next to the guy's face, leaning against the wall. The girl belongs to the royal city of Norheim in the kingdom of Durham. She is the Knight of Merrill. The girl resolutely invites the guy to join her order. She gives her word that he will definitely not regret it. Before this guy, a strange girl tried to recruit him. Roa considered this a very sudden invitation. After a scuffle with vile adventurers, it was so unexpected to receive an insistent invitation to the knightly order. The guy started talking loudly about the fact that he does not buy expensive paintings and he is not interested in it at all. Merrill didn't understand what the guy was talking about. Roa is very serious about it. After all, he doesn't want any cheating on his shift. The girl thought that the guy was trying to scare her. She asked the girl not to worry and said that she was not a recruiter at all. She still invites you to join her order to fight with her. Roa recalled the words of his late grandmother, who said that the people blocking the road at the intersection were dubious recruiters. Merrill apologizes. She didn't want the situation to happen. She remembers how the guys met old Enrico in the forest. Meryl reported that the guys matched the description of the adventurers the old man had told them about. Meryl was finally convinced. The guy's sense of justice, which did not allow the bullies to get away with it, and the excellent physical skills that Roa had just demonstrated, amazed the girl. Meryl offers the guy to join her order again with burning eyes. However, Roa refuses. The guy says that at the moment he is only interested in mastering magic. He waved his hand and walked away from the knight. Meryl was in shock. She didn't understand why a wizard carried a sword instead of a wand. Roa says that having a wand as another tool for practicing magic has not been relevant for a long time. Meryl thought it was a waste of time. She believes that if the guy had trained in the order, he could have become the first knight. Then Meryl grabbed the guy by the collar and dragged him to her. The girl offers to arrange a sparring with her for a certain amount. If Roa wins, then Meryl will do whatever he wants. The guy returned to the girls. Masha asked Roa where he had been. She wanted to tell me that adventurers came to her in order to ask for forgiveness. Masha reported that the guys had twisted faces on top of everything as if something had happened. They paid Masha for her work. Then Sonia jumps out from behind the guy and thanks him. Sonia realized that Roa had given the adventurers a good beating. The girl knows that Roa is one of those people who cannot close their eyes to something like this. Roa grinned and realized that, apparently, nothing could be hidden from Sonia. The girl said that she knows everything about Roa, but despite this, she still can't figure out what kind of girl is standing behind Roa. Roa said that he did not know himself, but the girl clung on the road. At this time, the girl came forward and introduced herself as a knight in shining armor, Meryl. Meryl apologizes and says that she is taking Roa with her. Sonia did not immediately understand what the girl was talking about. It's hardly possible to understand something if a stranger in armor claims that she will take your partner for herself. Roa asked the knight not to say that. He explained that he liked Meryl because the guy saved Enrico's life. The guy informs that Meryl wants him to join the order. Sonia now understood what was going on. The situation became much clearer, and then it was much easier for Sonia to listen to further explanation. The guy explained that Meryl was too persistent, so they decided to settle the matter with a training fight. In this case, people simply won't need words. They will be able to solve everything quickly and clearly. Meryl says that if she wins, the guy will have to join the order, and if he loses, he will fulfill his wish. Meryl will have to do everything for him. Sonia got scared and went up to the guy. She asks what, for example, a knight can do for him. The guy was surprised and said that the girl could help when they did not have enough money or would give information that only the knights knew about. Sonia has understood everything now. The guy is wondering what happened to her, and Sonia expressed her agreement about the training fight. Sonia is determined to win against the girl. However, Marilla is no less determined to win. Roa asks why Sonia is so worried, because he is fighting alone. Masha explained that the girls' fight had already begun. The guys ended up in the training area at the guild. Sonia heard that the guild in Almond has a great training ground. Masha adds that since there are many craftsmen here, they're building more and more of these things. Besides, the guys who stood next to them don't change at all. Those adventurers stood next to the girls and proudly cheered for the guy. Meryl asks the guy if he's ready to start fighting. The match will start as soon as the coin drops. As long as a guy doesn't use a blade, he can fight in any way, even with magic. Meryl says that if a guy hits once with his wooden sword, then he will win. Meryl will win if he hits 3 times. The guy was surprised and asked why 3. He definitely doesn't consider himself disabled. Meryl explained that she is still a good knight. Therefore, a young man should be kinder to ordinary people. As soon as the coin fell to the floor and rang, the girl rushed in the battle. Roa didn't even have time to blink, as the girl was next to him. He realized that Meryl was very fast. The guy sees the line from her ball. If he can parry it with his own, then he may well be able to win. However, he could not bring it to life, and the girl immediately struck him. Roa realizes that the girl is standing in a stance with an emphasis, a feint. One blow was struck. The girl was sure that adventurers were not used to crossing swords in his way. Meryl reminded the guy that he would lose if he didn't give his best. The guy understands that the girl is right. It may not be a good idea. Meryl and Roa are facing each other in the training arena. Sonia was surprised that Meryl hit the guy with 1 punch. Masha realized that this battle turned out to be much more difficult than the guy expected. She remembers that Meryl is a knight in shining armor. Meanwhile, Meryl stood proudly in front of the guy, waiting for another blow. Masha explains that the girl belongs to the second rank of knighthood. Sonia realizes that Meryl is strong enough to stand up for herself. Masha believes that the girl was expected to be a knight. The girl does not think that Roa has ever pointed a sword at anyone. She's a little worried about this. The guy uses physical reinforcement. Meryl realizes that the guy is in his element. Now Meryl is wondering how the guy will cope this time. They cross their wooden swords again. Meryl admits that Roa is very good, just as she expected. The guy quickly learns techniques and adopts them. The girls were amazed at the speed of skill growth. Meryl realizes that the guy is too good to just leave him. Merla begins to enjoy this battle. The guy does not understand where the knight got such a face that depicts complete pleasure. The girl apologized and asked to forget about it. Roa expressed that he did not want such a fate for himself as a knight. In the end, Roa compromised and said that he would recover now. An unusual object appeared on the guy's hand, and the girl asks where he got this object from now, and guesses that it is part of magic. Roa explains that he will soon run out of impof. Meryl finds it funny. She explains that there definitely won't be a next time. The guy uses the purple flashes skill. Bright lightning flashes appear around him. The girl grins and uses a magic twist. She is immediately behind the guy, and he does not even have time to apply his skill. Roa only turned back to see how the girl was behind in an instant, just as Meryl was already striking the guy a second time. Sonia and Masha were worried about Roa. The guy said that it was quite painful. The knight immediately apologized. Meryl explains that it is quite difficult to be gentle with a guy when he is in the moment, and she hopes that Roa is not one of those who whines about this. After this speech, she rushed at Roa again and urged him to continue the tournament. The guy understands that even if you use magic, the girl will shorten the distance in a fraction of a second. There is definitely no time for a spell. Meryl is about to deliver the final blow. She asks the guy not to worry, because she's going to finish the fight quickly. Roa understands that at this rate, he will lose. Even if he tried to get around her from such a distance, his body would definitely not be able to stand it. Sonia and Masha watched the fight with awe. Roa definitely does not agree to this outcome, because he wants more adventures of his life. He wants to master magic. After all, his magic is all he has. Suddenly, the guy had the effect of creating magic. His eyes were filled with an incomprehensible energy. He leaned forward and immediately found himself behind the girl. Meryl was startled by the fact that her sword flew far to the side. Masha and Sonia couldn't believe their eyes either. The creating magic effect is triggered unexpectedly. The guy disarmed the knight, and the girl was left without a sword. With some madness, he looked at the girl and pointed the sword in her direction. The adventurers were delighted with this victory, and they supported the guy in every possible way. Meryl asked what the guy had just done. He was able to dodge from such a distance, and an ordinary person would definitely not be able to. However, Roa did not understand himself. He looked at his hand and wondered what kind of power he had so suddenly. Meryl and Roa are facing each other. The guy knew this, in fact. It is an ordinary wooden sword. However, before that, he was definitely glowing, and the guy himself did not use any magic. Roa looked at the sword carefully. Then he lowered it and didn't pay much attention to it. Now Roa realizes that he has won against the knight in shining armor. The girl got angry. A second later, she immediately burst into tears. She clearly didn't expect that she could lose. Meryl started crying and wiping her tears with her sleeves. She's really sorry that the guy won't be able to come. There are already so few knights, and the newcomers can't stand it and immediately quit. Roa guessed that the girl had some kind of problem. Despite this, Meryl realizes that she needs to fulfill her promise and do whatever her boyfriend asks. Roa says with a smile on his face that he doesn't need anything right now, and suggests putting it off for later until something is thought out. Meryl immediately cheered up. She is offered to take paid leave so that she can rest a little. Sonia runs at the guy from the side. She hugs him with open arms and rejoices at the victory. Sonia, with sparkling eyes, is wondering what kind of movement it was. She realizes that she does not know this movement, but considers it very cool. Sonia says that Rola is really the best. The guy modestly thanks her. Sonia was so happy for the guy that she completely forgot about personal boundaries. The guy reminded her of this and said that Sonia was too close. Sonia, hearing this, covered her face with her hands, and immediately pulled away a few steps from the guy. Masha also thought that the guy was really great. Masha noticed that the movement seemed to have stopped in time, and a sword that seemed to be imbued with magic. Masha was also eager to find out how the guy did it. However, Roa replies that he doesn't know. He is sure that if he were asked to do the same thing right now, he would say that it would be difficult. However, he believes that if he could master this power, it would be much more fun for him to conquer the dungeon. Meryl looked at the guy and thought about her own. Sonia understands what's going on. She notices that the guy is still enjoying his position. Roa does not deny this and asks if Sonia does not think about it the same way as he does. Meryl is looking at the wooden sword at this time. Meryl smiles. She turns to the guy and says that she understands why he doesn't want to be a knight. The guy has a good group of friends. Besides, the young man seems to be having fun. Meryl sincerely apologizes for what she asked of him. She's really ashamed, and she lets him go. Meryl lives at the Knights of Durham barracks in Norheim, the royal capital. When the girl is not there, she usually guards King's Landing or fights bandits. Meryl shakes the guy's hand and says that if he needs anything, he can just ask her. Roa considers it an interesting experience and thanks the girl. The guys return to the dungeon on the first level again. Roa is glad that he didn't have to change jobs. Today they are going through the dungeon as usual, but the guy doesn't understand why Masha is with them too. The girl enthusiastically replies that this is only because today Mrs. Sonia hired her as a courier. The guy asks why she talks like that. Sonia explains that the girl wants to change her way of speaking. Masha says that the trio with the facial deformity called her a provincial because of the way she talks. They later apologized, but it still hurt her feelings. The guy thinks that the girl shouldn't worry about it. Sonia says that girls worry about even the most insignificant things. She turns to Masha and asks if she wants to be told that she is pretty cute. Masha denies this and says that she just doesn't want to be amused while doing business. Anyway, Masha asks the guys to hunt from the bottom of their hearts today. She's going to carry something that won't fit in the item drawer. Masha's going to use the reward as a fund to start. Then she is going to return to trading. Roa understands that the girl has a pretty strong business spirit. The guy will only be happy if she wants it that way. The guy starts cutting up the loot. Masha asks to wait and explain that these parts do not represent special values, and they cannot even be removed. The guy didn't even seem to know about it. He says that he has already sold the skins of thermal boars for 6,000 muro. This is because thermal boars are more likely to appear in places with high temperatures. So in Almond, the rate for them is low. However, Masha recommends their tusks. Perhaps it's because of the surprisingly large size, but few adventurers bring them with them. But if they go to Mr. Rao's item drawer, it won't matter. The guy understands what the girl is talking about. He agrees with her. They can leave light materials to Masha. On top of that, this copy was in good health, so they'll give a good markup for that too. It turns out that there's a lot to learn from merchants, and breaking fangs and claws is easier than getting skin. The girl made a remark to the guy about the cleanliness of his knife. The guy apologized for that. There's another heat board lurking around the corner, but as soon as he saw the picture of his kinsman being dismantled for goods, he, to put it mildly, was taken aback and hurried away. It seems that tomorrow it will be his turn. 3 days later, the guys returned to the guild. They sold the material Masha told them to collect for a good price. Masha was very glad that she could be useful. She also received a large reward, so it's a win-win. With this money, Masha will be able to purchase a wagon for her business. The guy guesses that the courier service is closing. Masha confirms this. She is also thinking of going to the royal capital of Norheim. The girl wants to make a fortune there and then repay all the kindness to the guy. Sonia really hopes that by that time the girl will find her tone. Masha leaves the guys. She invites them to visit her if they ever come to the capital. The guy waves at her and wishes her luck. Sonia notices that Masha is active. As always, Roa is sure that they will meet again soon. The guy understands that hiring a courier would be a good idea. After all, thanks to Sonia, Masha is now back on the road, and Roa has learned a lot about the materials. Here Sonu leans over to the guy and says that if Masha were here, they wouldn't have so much time alone. Roa agrees with a smile. He admits that they are much better off together. It's easier to coordinate equipment this way. The guys went to spend the night. They slept in the same room on 2 different beds. Sonia tried to be brave, but Roa, in her opinion, is very stupid. She tried to follow Meryl's example and be persistent. The next morning, Roa was awakened by a violent fit of rage. Now they are in the 5th level Almond dungeon. Sonia runs away from the fiery buffalo of the rank of C. She follows strictly the tactics that the guy has developed. As soon as Sonia jumps and defends with a shield, the Roa use a ball of bubbling water. After this spell, all monsters instantly turn into water explosions. Sonia is very happy that Roa did it at the perfect moment. The guy admits that it's all thanks to Sonia. Now Sonia has reached her level goal. She has reached level 560. The guy intends to continue using magic with this attribute. He intends to study the rain cloud, which is worth 500 levels. Roa is completely absorbed in the process of learning magic. Now he intends to achieve heights in this area. MP consumption and rollback time are quite large, but the benefits and the amount of damage are even greater. Roa thinks he has enough levels, so he can get this skill right away. However, Sonia asked him to wait a minute. Sonia reminds the guy that he will be able to do this after he leaves the dungeon. After all, if he spends 500 levels, he will return to the first one. It will be very dangerous to try to raise it again here. Roa was immediately upset, because if there is a level that he can spend, then he wants to spend it right away. Sonia got angry and said that she needed to think about the future. The guys gathered among the others. They made good money today. They obtained 15 magic stones and a rank of 90,000 miru. However, given the high cost of housing, he would be happy if they got a little more. Sonia suggested that we aim for the 6th level the next day. Perhaps they will be able to find materials that can be sold for more than they are getting now. The guys were distracted by an unfamiliar voice on the sidelines. A strange guy with dark hair mentioned the 6th level. The stranger warned the guys and said that it was not safe for them. After all, if they want to go to the 6th level, then they must have the A rank. This stranger said that the rank should be like his. He looked like an experienced adventurer. The young man says it's like his. Roa asked the guy to brag somewhere else. However, the stranger did not mean that at all. He didn't want to hurt the guys in any way. Actually, the guy just wanted to ask if they wanted to have dinner with him. He wants to give him any information. As a result, Sonia and Roa agreed. They arrived for dinner, where a sumptuous meal awaited them. Roa was shocked that there was a juicy beefsteak in front of them, which seemed to beckon with its appearance and aroma. Sonia did not believe that it could all be at the expense of the establishment. The cook certainly did his best. The guy explained that this was his apology for being rude to the guys earlier. He asked them not to be shy and to start eating. Roa took one piece of meat. He couldn't remember the name of such a preparation. The stranger reminded me and said that it was medium rare. Roa was eating meat with tears in his eyes. The guy was surprised that Roa burst into tears after one bite. He asked what he usually eats. Sonia replied that he usually eats a caterpillar. As it turned out, the stranger's name is Sarai. He is an A-rank magician. Sonia introduces herself and introduces Roa. Sarai stared at the girl and asked a question. He asked if they had met somewhere before. Sonia thought that this could not be. Serge is talking about what he might think. The guy continues the conversation. Judging by the look of the guys, they arrived in Almond recently. Sarai said that the strength of the monsters in this dungeon increases to the 6th level. The recommended level to win is the 900th. Almost all of them are monsters of rank. Sonia realizes that the additional boss they fought before had a recommended level of about 1,000. Roa agrees and says that if the monsters don't walk in groups, then they have a great chance of winning. Sarai asked what the rank of the guys was, since they defeated the additional boss. Roa said he's still at C rank. Sarai was confused. He looks like he's holding back a lot of things he wants to say. In fact, in this case, it is even more dangerous for the guys to go. There are not many adventurers in Almond right now who are capable in terms of the number of levels. So this place is teeming with monsters that no one has ever defeated. Roa's eyes immediately sparkled. Sarai noticed that he looked like he really wanted to go through and check it out. Roa asks Sarai if he is a magician like him. Sarai asked where Roa's staff was in that case. The guy explains that he has always been a swordsman and started using magic only a month ago. He thinks he can do without the staff. Sarai understands that completing a C-Crank dungeon in a month is a great feat, but Roa can shorten the cast time if he uses a staff. Roa clearly didn't know about this news. Sarai begins to explain that the cast is needed, first of all, for the deployment of magical circuits. The staff transmits magic, and it shortens the temporary spell. In any case, this may not be the only function of the staff. Sonia understood how Sarai was using his staff. However, the guy refuted Sonia's guesses and said that he always does cast destruction. This is the first time Roa has heard this definition. Sarai holds his staff on his hand. He explains that you have to tinker a little with the magic chains themselves, and not everyone can do it. He clearly appreciates his skills and understands how masterfully he can manage them. Suraj says that he can do it because he is a genius. Roa understands that the guy is very self-confident if he considers himself worthy of such a title. However, this prompted Roma to think. He remembers an incident when he fought with Meryl. After all, he didn't do anything, but something magical worked. It may be that this kind of power is done by creating magic. Anyway, Roa will now think about it and try to repeat that trick. Roa froze, looking at his reflection in the mug. He understands that there was something subconscious or something a little different back then. After all, he himself did not summon that state in any way, which was definitely something different from the usual one. Sarai noticed this and asked what had happened. The guy understands that in any case they were pleased to meet Sarai because they are both magicians. The guy agrees. He thinks that he and Roa could become worthy rivals. However, Roa didn't seem to hear it at all. Yesterday, Roa was glad that they were in a peaceful environment. The square seemed to be out of danger. Roa is determined to get magic for 500 levels right here. Sonia agrees, because it's safe here, even when the lawyer has the first level. Roa enthusiastically dials magic on his panel. He is extremely happy that he has now studied the rain cloud. The base damage of this skill is 30,000. If you hit a weak point, you can deal twice as much damage in one hit. So it may be possible to hit a B-ranks monster as well. But suddenly, in the Roa Park with the first level, a cat of the second level bites, and then the guy falls to the ground in pain. Sonia became worried and asked Roa not to leave her just from the bite of a small cat. Evening came. The boys returned to their room. Roa did not expect that he almost left this world from the bite of a small cat. He already thought that this was the end. Sonia explains that, first of all, they have to raise the level again. She suggests moving to the 6th floor the day after tomorrow. Roa remembers that according to Sarai, the 6th level is dangerous. Roa wants to gain at least 500 levels again before they go there. Roa, flipping through the panel, just noticed one thing. Roa jumped up from the table and screamed about what had happened. Sonia also did not remain indifferent and moved closer. Now they both look at the panel to figure out what the problem is. As it turned out, the total cost of the previous one was 3,000. Now Roa has received a level reset bonus. Now he can get a double experience for all members of the group. The guys were incredibly surprised by these skills. Now they can develop twice as much and faster. The guys went back to Almond's dungeon on the first level. The guy uses the water blade on the boars again. Now they have defeated 2 monsters. Normally that would be enough to raise their level by 150 or so. Roa is glad that he can do it faster now. Now he can do it all in one go. He has 250 levels now. Sonia thinks it's amazing. The guy thinks that today they will quickly reach the 6th floor. With their new skills and abilities, there should be a minimum of doubts about this. Sonia thinks it's really amazing. It seems that at this rate, Roa will become the most powerful man in the world. She can't help but be happy about it, because the girl wants all the best for Roa. Roa agrees. Maybe it's not just a dream anymore. Becoming the strongest in the world by mastering magic is now more like a hard-won goal. Roa realizes that he got a little carried away. Sonia denies and says that it is a great honor for her to help Roa become the most powerful person in the world. The girl sincerely believes that the guy can become great. Roa was surprised. He thanked the girl and said that she had always been very helpful to him. Sonia was very glad that Roa appreciated her attitude. The guys met another monster, a huge squid of the D rank. His eyes were so huge that they inspired wild horror just by looking at them, and the red vessels made those who noticed it shed tears. It was not difficult for the guys to deal with him. Roa is glad that they are gaining levels quickly. Now the guy has a 610th level. At this rate, the guy should easily be able to defeat the bosses in the dungeon. Sonia understands that you need to be afraid of a pack of monsters. If they are going to be assembled to rank B, then it may take a long time. The guy understands that. The guys ended up in a dungeon on the 6th floor. They can always escape to the 5th floor. They decided to look at the stairs first. After all, it couldn't be that they would immediately encounter monsters as soon as they entered. Roa looked into the distance of the arch. A silhouette was coming out of the darkness. It turned out to be a red orc of C rank. Roa gave the command to launch an attack. Sonia began to take up her position. The guys act quickly and confidently. They don't have time to panic. She threw her shield at the monster. Sonia is firmly convinced that she will not let Roa get in the way. The orc was pushing against the shield with incredible force. However, this did not stop Sonia. The guy understands that Sonia, with her 640 levels, can calmly perceive the difference in the opponent's levels. Now is the time to launch an attack with your skill. The guy uses a water blade. He thanks the girl for taking her time so long. Of course, Sony's help is simply invaluable in this matter. He and Roa make a great team. The guy rushes at the monster and says that he should learn from Sonia. After all, if the monster does not defend itself, it will surely die. Roa swung his sword with all his might and struck the monster with one blow. Now the guys have raised the level. Sonia was shocked that her level rose immediately to the 90th. Such an increase has significantly increased the characteristics of the guys. Now they will be able to run errands even better and defeat monsters. Now the guys have instant level up activated. It's really breathtaking. They will be able to level up seamlessly without spending so much time waiting. This makes research much easier. The monster was left lying on the floor in the dungeon. Roa offered to just take the magic stone and leave. Roa can't fight during a 150-second rollback, and monsters can hear the noise and gather around them. However, the guy is confident that he can beat one or two more. Sonia asked the guy to pay attention to one thing. The girl turned her head to the side and froze in one position. As it turned out, a whole crowd of monsters is running towards the guys. They were all just terrible to look at, and their intentions were clearly not the best. Among them were those who looked like huge lizards, orcs, and other monsters. The boys ran to the stairs. I was lucky they were near the stairs. Sonia was sure that the monsters would not follow them to the upper levels. However, this did not scare the monsters at all, and they climbed up the stairs. Sonia asks what they should do. After all, if they don't do anything, they will be surrounded as a monster on the 5th level. Even if they get out of this, the guy doesn't know if they can make up for the time of the cast. But suddenly Sonia draws attention to the huge clouds of smoke. Then she remembers how she fell into a trap for removing equipment. The girl covered her face with her hands and thought that Roa would be naked right now. She heard Roa's voice asking what she was staring at. Roa was happy because he has a detection ring. He managed to see the trap just in time to avoid it. The girl looked at the floor. Roa noticed this and asked why she was so depressed. Suddenly, Sarai appeared behind the guys. He noticed that the guys were still as noisy as ever. Apparently, he was a little amused by this because novice adventurers are always full of energy and enthusiasm. The guy waves his staff and applies the burning skill. With his magic, he sweeps away all the monsters on the way so that the entire floor remains clean. The flames remain raging on the floor for a couple more moments and then subside. The guys think it's amazing. After all, so many monsters disappear in an instant. The guy is holding his staff in his hands. He mentions that the 6th level is dangerous. Roa thanks the guy for saving their lives. He asks if Sarai used fire magic with you. He finds it incredible that a guy with rank A hit everyone with a single blow, despite the unfavorable attribute. Sarai says that he is a genius, and he can just go for it, no matter what rank the monster is. Roa notices that the guy is confident, as always. Most likely, this confidence helps him in battle, because this way you can know in advance about the victory. Roa admits that Sarai is strong enough to match that confidence because he hasn't even cast a spell. Roa helps that this was the destruction of caste right now. Sonia understands that it is good to be able to use magic instantly at such moments. The guy explains that this requires talent. However, he does not ignore the fact that the guys went too far with the C rank. Sarai is sure that Roa has talent too. If he works hard, he'll be able to use it someday. The guys were interrupted by the angry roar of monsters at the bottom of the stairs. Sarai, get ready to show the guys another magic for fun. He rises several levels above the ground and begins to soar. Roa helps that this is the application of wind magic. However, Suraj explains that this is gravitational magic. Sarai, seeing that there are only a few monsters, he uses the meteor shower skill. A number of meteorites in a hot shell descend from the sky. All meteorites hit monsters one by one, leaving no living place behind. Sonia thinks what she saw was amazing, and Roa realizes that the firepower of this magic is much greater than that of the fire magic that he owns. After all, fire magic itself is incredible and special. Immediately stands out from the rest of the species. Now Roa understands what the power of A rank is. The guy's eyes lit up, and he firmly believes that he too will be able to use such magic someday. Now the guy has even more motivation to achieve his goal. Sarai lands. He is confident that he will definitely succeed. He is looking forward to Roa becoming as strong. He leaves and tells the guys that they will see each other later. Roa and Sonia follow the guy with their eyes. Suraj is walking down the alley. He has already collected his reward from the guild. He finds the guys very funny, because their eyes light up when he shows them a little magic. Thanks to the guys, even boring work seems a little more fun for Sarai. Suddenly, someone calls out to the guy. This is a gang of bandits. They were clearly not friendly at all and seem to want to get something out of the meeting. They say that if he doesn't want to get hurt, then the guy will need to give all the money he has in his hand. The guys look like real bandits. They looked at Sarai with a smirk and mockery. Sarai doesn't take these guys seriously. They were annoyed by this and rushed to the attack. However, the bandits could not set foot yet, as they were also destroyed by fire magic. Miraculously, the surviving man staggered back in horror. Sarai learned that dealing with people is much more fun than dealing with monsters. After all, people have interesting thinking and can fight back with dignity. Sarai's gaze changed beyond recognition. When he puts on a sheepskin, he can catch a lot of inexperienced people like these bandits. Most likely, the guy is enjoying it. He clearly has some kind of plan.